hitting the building beyond the left center field wall and bouncing back in. And so Salvi has his 308th career home run, and he ties the game at 1 in the 6th. Drilled deep right center field. Geloff over from center. It's gone. He got it right over the short wall in right center field.
I don't know who was more surprised by that ball clearing the wall. The collective group of people watching at home, Ryan Lefevre with the call, or Bobby rounding first. I think everybody... Oh, that went out?
Yes.
Because, look, that ballpark is odd. I don't watch many games with teams in that ballpark. I don't stay up late to watch A's games in the West Coast. Even if I have fantasy players that may be playing, it's a little bit different in baseball than football. I'll stay up and watch fantasy players on a Thursday night football or Monday night or Sunday night. I ain't staying up to watch a starting pitcher that's going to have 28 more starts, 29 more starts in a season just one time on a team that's got, 10 starting pitchers or 10 pitchers on it. I ain't doing that. So I don't watch many games there in Sacktown, except when the Royals play. That was 3 games last year, and we were fully embraced in Chiefs football, let's be honest. It was September 27th, 28th, and 29th when they played in Sacramento last year. So I am not familiar with the ballpark. But it is an odd park, and we know that with it being a minor league park. I swear to you, if you would have said crack of the bat, which one is a home run and which one is a single / could have been a double. Salvi's hit early in the game that it was as pure and as loud of a crack of a bat that you're going to hear that, when you're driving around and listening to baseball, you can hear it.
Yes.
And you go, oh, go ball, go. Or, it kind of sounds odd. Like, oh, he just popped it up. Get fouled, get out of play. That's what Salvi's hit was, and I'm like, that thing is smoked. Salvi thought it was too because he was jogging.
Yeah.
And it hits like the bottom of the wall or the wall, whatever, and comes back. I thought it was gone because it disappeared with the yellow, right? It sort of blended in. And I'm like, what? How is that? I thought this was a child's ballpark. How did that stay in? And then Bobby's the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, get down, get down, get down. Just land. How in the hell did that thing get out? I think Bobby was even surprised by that.
The 4-foot fence really is a huge benefactor.
Take a little bit of Fenway from them in right center.
Dude, it goes up to like your thigh. Yeah. Like, what is this state?
It's like where you wear. It's like where you wear your shorts.
Oh,
your shorts match right where the wall starts.
Correct. I'm the Sacktown of shorts.
God, dang it!
Can't give me a day off from the cuts, huh, Stro?
Yeah, but.
Michael,
good, let's be honest, dude.
That was pretty good.
That was, for as quick as he dropped that one, that was pretty good. I'm not
gonna low-hanging fruit there.
Well, not for him. So that was surprising that one went out and Salvi's didn't.
Yeah.
But back-to-back, you know what? I don't know. It's even more shocking that back-to-back games, this is a team that has a 3-run home run in extra innings. They couldn't hit a home run in any inning, let alone back-to-back games. They get a 3-run walk-off from Lane Thomas on Sunday and a 3-run home run game winner from Bobby last night. And it's not like we can show up today and go, boy, this offense is just now on a heater.
No.
If they gave up one fewer run or one more run, we'd be saying, oh, that's rough going to that ballpark and only scoring 1 run. But they scored 4. They got it done. The pitching, the bullpen, kept him in the game. Bubic was fighting it a little bit, but, did his job. And the bullpen came in. Mears was awesome. Strom got it done. Urseg decided to go Estevez a year ago and make it interesting, but ultimately get the job done. And the Royals got the job done last night. We'll talk a number of different segments today. We'll talk about the Royals and what happens moving forward now. Jonathan India out for the year. Not Bobby, but Vinny is dealing with a tight back. We'll talk about those things and a decision that they've got all the information. I'd like to see him do something specific with that. We'll talk about what that means. But let's start with one of the clips you heard there in the open. Michael, go ahead and play that clip that we heard yesterday. About 20 minutes later than we thought we were going to hear that yesterday. We had to really enjoy some Michael Wilbon breaking down some more New York Knickerbockers. Thank you, Michael. And you had to see all of Kansas and Kentucky fans and national recruiting experts going, can we get Wilbon off my screen, please? There's one reason I am watching this right now, and that is to see where Tyron Stokes is going to play his college ball. And I love like the Kentucky fans or Kentucky media people that I still follow that are like, come on, can you please get this over so I can be disappointed and move on with my night, please? I can already have moved on by now. Once he says Kansas, I can just put it behind me. But you're delaying the inevitable here. Just get it done. And Kansas fans are excited, and it ended up going that way. But here's what it sounded like to a degree, sort of mixed around with Stokes making his decision.
You know who's in there?
Nah, it's like a gender reveal kind of, you know?
Okay. Don't worry about it. In the future, you have so much money, you can get somebody on the rap stuff for you.
But with that being said, taking my talents to University of Kansas, Kansas University.
Oh!
Rock chalk, man. Rock chalk, you feel me? Rock chalk. You know, Coach Bill Self, great coach.
Great person, too.
Great person, you know. He's been there from the beginning. He's always fed into me, you know. He's gave me great advice, you know, through the entire process. I just want to say thank you to the university. You know, Rock Chalk Nation just giving me the opportunity to go in the Allen Fieldhouse and just, you know, leave my mark. You know, I'm ready to go put on the show. And, you know,
all right, let's move that over. Let's move that over. Let's get in. There it is,
I'm there.
So there you go. There's Tyron Stokes making his announcement that he is going to play at KU for Bill Self. Once the awkwardness got out of the way, and people saw what the decision was, Kentucky fans tuned out. Kansas fans stayed tuned in, watching and celebrating in excitement of the number one player in the land, potentially number one pick in the draft next year, in back-to-back years choosing Kansas with Darren Peterson a year ago and Tyron Stokes this year. For this roster this year, if you told me that Kansas was not going to land one of the top shooters that's out there, one of the top transfers or anything like that, like who knows, there's still plenty in the transfer portal. They needed an injection of talent on the team. They've got TK. Keanu Dawes, I thought, was a nice addition, bringing back Cole Rosario. Blyden as a freshman. Mbaya returned, but you're talking about a guy that didn't play much. Reeves, the 7'2" center that they got, that is one of the best offensive rebounding, players in America as a 7'2" guy. So clearly a lot of focus on rebounding and toughness with this particular group. Tyron Stokes brings that as well. He is a bowling ball in the open court and is a premier rebounder too. Also a high school kid that's a willing rebounder, which is good. So they needed an influx of talent. No doubt about that. He's not a 3-level scorer, though, yet. There's always an opportunity to improve. He's got all the summer and, into early fall to improve that part of his game. I don't think, I read a couple of different scouting breakdowns, one in the Kansas City Star this morning, that a scout that they talked to that had been scouting Tyron Stokes for a while said, Kansas should not count on him to make any threes this year. If he does, great. He can get hot from behind the arc, but that's not his game. He's not a 3-level scorer yet. So we'll get into what ultimately that means for this Kansas team. But first and foremost, Sterling, as the roster sat yesterday versus today, if you're talking about where Kansas basketball is expected to be, they needed an injection of talent.
They needed this.
They needed this. They needed an injection of talent, whether it was this or somebody else. And maybe they weren't in on some of the top transfers. Maybe Momcilovic is going to stay in the NBA draft. And it's like, well, if you spend $5 million on him or $5 million on Stokes, personally, I'd rather spend $5 million on Momcilovic.
I would too.
With KU's roster. But if he's staying and you get that idea, well, then go and spend the money on this guy. If you can't piece together $2 million here, $2 million there, $1 million there for 3 different guys to build one and not be reliant upon a couple of freshmen like last year was with Darren Peterson.
Well, they got the dude. They got a dude.
Yeah.
And this is what Bill Self needed, but I will also point out, I think KU fans, at least even the ones I've talked to briefly, I mean, this is still fairly fresh, right? They go, yeah, it's great, but I mean, Darren Peterson last year. They're already almost not pessimistic by any means.
Burned a little bit.
Yeah, burned. Like, tempered expectations for getting this guy. Like, they're getting the number one recruit, the potential, more than likely, number one pick in the 2027 NBA draft. And from the KU fans I've talked to recently, it's almost tempered excitement, where I think if Missouri got Crow and we're losing our minds, I'm losing my mind.
What do you got, a mouse in your pocket? Speak for yourself.
I do.
I expected that to happen. You
It's
know what I
Mighty
mean?
Mouse.
You know, Dennis Gates' best season is the off season, the recruiting season. He kills it.
But my point is, some schools, Missouri, if K-State would have, you don't have
agree.
this. You think of Michael Beasley.
But also 3 years in the making of Michael Porter.
Yeah, and that was in Missouri, because Missouri can't have nice things. We're just not allowed to.
But also, it was like 3 years in the making, and it was like, okay, you hired Conzo Martin, you got Michael Porter, worth it.
Yes.
Worth it. You got the number one recruit and his younger brother that could have been, if he didn't reclassify, would have been a top 5 recruit the next year to go to Mizzou. They were going to go to Washington. Well done. You got it. That was a huge deal in remaking sort of the excitement around Columbia. And it's a great point about you just landed the best player in America. And it's like, hell yeah, let's go. But we'll see.
Yes.
Almost to a degree. And Michael, I want to get your thoughts on this after Sterling weighs in on what I thought was a good point, Sterling.
Yeah, and so that's just more or less where the people I've talked to have been that, which I found a little fascinating. A little, again, surprising him choosing Kansas over Kentucky when you grew up in Louisville.
Until he was 10, but then he moved to California.
But still, I mean...
But also, his first visit was Louisville. So there is something to that. His first official visit was to the University of Louisville.
And so... from getting a guy, getting a stud, a star, I think Kansas fans just have to be thrilled. The lack of shooting I always find a little funny in college, because guys don't really improve that much, especially year one from high school to college. You don't see it. It's the NBA where guys really... Hell, Andre Drummond now can shoot threes in the NBA. Like, in the NBA, it's wild just how quick guys can shoot if you put the work in, not like Ben Simmons. Sorry, Sixers won last night. That was a bad shot at good old Ben.
I mean, it's not a bad shot.
That means I got that one right in Fact or Fiction yesterday.
You did get that one right.
Yeah.
Darcy
but
wins.
you said Ben Simmons in bad shots. So
yeah, so I mean,
it goes hand in hand.
But I wouldn't expect him again to be a three-point shooter for Kansas this year, but do you need him to be? Is that what you're counting on? You have to surround him with shooters. I didn't think Kansas did a good job last year surrounding Darren Peterson or even Melvin Council with the shooters. I thought that it was poor roster construction. If Bill Self can get three-point shooters surrounded on this team, and that's why I thought the Bryson Tiller loss was big, because you can lose Flory. But if you would have kept Bryson, who can be kind of that stretch big, that actually was better roster construction for this current team.
But did he want that, though? Is that what he wanted Bryson Tiller to be, whereas Missouri was saying, you're a stretch. Look at what we've done with Trent Pierce.
Correct.
You can be that offensive scorer from different levels. Kansas and Bill Self has publicly made statements and emphasis of you working more in the paint and on the block. Maybe that's not what you think your style is. Michael, what did you make of, let's just go with this, leading into it, where was your heart and your head of, like, Stokes is getting ready to announce? Was it, please, Kansas? Was it, I'm good either way? Was it, we went down the Darren Peterson sort of saga drama thing? Do you want to go somebody else that's waited this long and then had their announcement on ESPN on NBA tip-off and then took that long and then announces with a video game and puts the sunglasses on, like, which, by the way, he still could be an amazing, that's all just sort of part of the show. But I'm wondering, leading into it, where was your heart and mind? And then when he announced, where was your heart and mind? And now the next day. Those are three different levels.
I've had the gut feeling that he was going to pick Kansas for the past month or so.
Me too.
I've also had people kind of close to the situation inform me that he was leaning Kansas.
Yeah.
So I would have been surprised if that announcement came yesterday and it was any other school than Kansas.
Me too.
I don't know if I'm over the moon with this pickup because we saw it last year. And if anything was proven with the Darren Peterson saga is that, yeah, it's great to have the number one player in the country or the number one high school recruit, or maybe he was number two or co-one, but it didn't translate to tournament success. It didn't translate to them winning the Big 12 or even finishing top 2 in the Big 12. So it's awesome to have Tyron Stokes. He's a great talent, but I think over time we are going to start to notice that when you spend all of your resources on 2 or 3 players, or even just one player, because, listen, Tyron Stokes isn't cheap. You didn't get him to come for a couple $1 million.
I mean, I was told, and some of these things can be inflated, but I was told that he has had a standing $5 million offer for like 3 months. And I was told by multiple people at the Final Four, that was Kentucky, that he had $5 million sitting there on the table from Kentucky for a while. And they were willing to, and this is where I want to get into the macro in a second, is that Mark Pope was almost like right of first refusal. Whatever they offer you, we'll match. We'll match. We'll match.
I think Kentucky offered him more money.
I think they offered him at least the same. They may have offered him more, but I think they offered him at least the same amount of money. So this was not, he just took the most money and went to Kansas. I think Kentucky probably would have said, hold on, you're going to Kansas, we'll offer you more. What do you want? How much do you want? We'll be able to, we'll get this done. But you've seen if it's just one guy, right, a high-level guy, as you're talking about.
It goes back to Sterling's point about building the roster. They have not really built the roster. I mean, they've done a little bit of work to build the roster around Stokes, but, TK, I don't know how those two guys are going to mesh on the floor at the same time. I also think right now, I mean, they've got a couple bigs that were transfers, but they're going to be year one bigs under Bill Self, and they're upperclassmen, so who knows what they could end up looking like. Cole Rosario came back, but in some of the projections on the starting lineup, he's not in it. So it's like, I don't really understand what the plan is, but it's funny that you mentioned Kentucky because my first reaction, I mean, all over Twitter, it was Kentucky fans reacting to Stokes choosing Kansas over Kentucky. I almost viewed the commitment to Kansas as a giant loss for Kentucky because I've known that, Stokes was probably
Maybe
leaning.
I think that was happening in Kentucky last night. I think there was a lot of that to soothe the feelings. There was a lot of toking.
But I think it's an indictment on Kentucky not getting TK, a guy that grew up in Kentucky,
100%.
and not getting Tyron Stokes, who lived in Kentucky for a period in his life. And both of those guys chose a different blue blood.
I think that's such a great point, and I was thinking the exact same thing. What does it say about Mark Pope?
It says a lot.
Not good.
I mean, again, I you know my thoughts. I thought he came off as a bleep when Missouri played Kentucky. I was like, I'm not a fan of this guy.
I like him. He seems like a good dude. But
again, so when you see on TV, I don't know him personally. Just in the interaction of watching him on the sidelines go 100%. Psycho in a game, I'm like, dude, what? Chill.
I get it.
I was like, not a fan. But again, that's also through Missouri-colored playing that team glasses. I will acquiesce that. But when you were losing, as Darcy points out, these two guys to a rival blue blood, and you had a very disappointing last year, and you've not had the success. Cal wasn't good enough. What Cal was doing was not good enough. But I'll tell you this much. Do we all agree Cal would have landed him? I think we all agree. Cal's not letting both those guys go. Cal's probably getting both TK and Stokes there. That's what he's good at. So right now I'm sitting here going, is Kentucky, I'm not saying going the way of Indiana, but they're heading that direction more so than they are being UConn.
When I was actually thinking of it from a North Carolina and Kentucky perspective, Hubert Davis was not a good coach, but at least he could recruit a little bit. I don't think Mark Pope has done a very good job recruiting, especially in his own state.
Well, I think the biggest transfer they got was at Quintessence. All that money, and he didn't really play.
Well, he had the injury.
But you knew that.
You knew what you were getting. Clayton's, whatever. You had the injury there. One of the odd parts of this, which I find to be like, I like the looking back of the different dominoes. If this doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, if this doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, right? We can go back to Andy Enfield choosing or leaving USC for SMU, which then meant, and this whole thing coming together for how it worked out for Kansas, right? In a couple rivals, one a very local rival and one a national blue blood rival. Andy Enfield leaves USC, goes to SMU. Mark Musselman leaves Arkansas to go to USC. Arkansas goes after Jerome Tang. Kansas State gets nervous and gives a ridiculous contract to Jerome Tang to keep him there. Because of that, or maybe in spite of, who knows, Arkansas then goes and overpays for John Calipari. Not overpaid now,
Yeah, not
but at
overpaid
the time
now.
it was like, wow, you're getting a guy that's not even succeeding at Kentucky anymore. Kentucky fans were cool with it because they thought they were going to go all these different coaches or any of them.
They were
end
cool
up
with it, and now
Yes.
they're watching from the corner.
That's exactly right. There's Suke Waladowski being coached as Mark Pope. Mark Pope then takes over at Kentucky, and you've got Kansas State that turned out to be in shambles the last couple of years with K-State making sure they held on to Jerome Tang. You've got John Calipari leaving Kentucky and the national sort of rivalry back and forth. Kentucky and Kansas wins nationally, all of that stuff in the history of college basketball that can't even land two kids that grew up in their backyard. TK grew up 45 minutes from the campus at Kentucky and is at Kansas. Stokes, first 10 years of his life and family, all from Louisville, and then moves. His first recruiting visit was to Louisville. He took multiple visits to Kentucky, official and unofficial visits to Kentucky. They lose both those guys. Kansas gets both those guys. K-State's dealing with a new coach, and Kentucky's dealing with a coach they want out, and players don't seem to want to go there because Robert Wright was on campus with Stokes. Remember, Robert Wright took his official, so Stokes decided to take his unofficial when he was there, and Wright ends up taking his name out of the portal and going back to BYU. And Stokes chooses Kansas. I don't know what happened that weekend, but you talk about a difference of Wright and Stokes on the court for Kentucky, or neither of them, and it all happened with Andy Enfield leaving and Mark Musselman taking the USC job.
Yeah.
Just those dominoes. What if Musselman turned down USC? What if Arkansas said, we're going to pay you whatever you want, Mark Musselman, even though he's more of a West Coast guy? He was at Nevada.
Cal would be at K-State.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what I'm getting at. Yes. Cal would still be there at Kentucky because they wouldn't have paid for the buyout. They wouldn't have had the stones to fire him. It was one of those to where I think we're good with your leaving, but I don't think we would have collected the amount of money it would have taken and then actually had the stones to say we're firing this guy that's been to 4 Final Fours and won a national championship and has played in 3 national championship games in the last 15 years. We're firing that guy. I don't know what the landscape would look like, but I would guess that TK and or Stokes wouldn't be in Lawrence right now.
I'll also say grass isn't always greener.
True.
So for some Kansas fans who I've heard for not let's say a loud minority of Kansas fans who have been frustrated with Bill Self for the past couple of seasons, grass isn't always greener. And I'll say the same thing if you want to relate it to Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
Again, the loud minority of folks that are saying he's washed, all that stuff. Hey, sometimes a great head coach is still a great head coach. Mm-hmm. You got to realize when you fired Cal at Kentucky, they thought they were getting better. They thought that they were
They were going to
stagnant.
get Jay Wright or Billy Donovan. They were going to get actually they thought they were going to get Hurley.
Well, it's like Chiefs. It's like the Chiefs when they go, we'll fire Andy and get Kevin O'Connell or Sean McVay. Yeah, that's how it works.
Or Bill Belichick. I think there's a bigger meaning to this too. Let's take a timeout. We'll talk about that. And I also want to talk about a little bit of, I mentioned this before, so this is not a, oh my God, he's at Kansas, now I'm going to give this opinion. I mentioned this before. But we'll talk about where my trepidation comes in with this, not just roster construction, but this specific recruit and what we've seen in recent years. We'll talk about that on the other side. We'll get into some Royals talk for sure. Jeff Montgomery joins us at 11 o'clock. Daniel Harms at noon. A lot of Chiefs talk to get into. Matt Miller ranked his top 100 players for pick and value and fits. Where do the Chiefs draft picks come in that list? Do any Chiefs draft picks come in on that list? How many? And then I wanted to look at, last night I went and did very, very simple math and calculations to look at the true impact on the cap and the contracts of what the Chiefs did in their secondary this offseason and what it means maybe for the overall look of the defense. We'll talk about all of that as we continue going along. NCAA is going to expand to 76 teams. The NBA is trying to rid tanking and relegating teams to non-lottery, higher percentage. We'll talk about some of those things as well. More Zone coming up next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We continue rolling on this Wednesday edition of the show. It's a Wednesday, everybody. Wednesday edition. We'll talk with Monty coming up at the 11 o'clock hour. I want to talk about like what it means, maybe bigger picture too, for getting the number one player. We haven't seen the top recruits lead their teams in the NCAA tournament. We haven't seen that when they have been sort of needing to be the alphas. AJ, Devonson, and Darren this year, round of 64, round of 32, respectively. No Sweet 16. Last year, Cooper Flagg and Malawach, they went to the Final Four. What I want to get into and how this whole thing relates is Duke was one of the best three-point shooting teams in America that year and going to the Final Four, and they had a huge lead in the national semifinal that they ended up blowing. But Cooper Flagg, also the number one player in America, shot almost 40% from behind the arc.
Yeah.
As a ball handler. And Malawach, you got two of the top 5 recruits in the same recruiting class. They fit and didn't sort of cross over in the things that they wanted to do on the floor. But the year before that, Kentucky had 3 of the top 6 recruits in America, and they lost in the first round. The year before that, Duke had 3 of the top 4 recruits in America. They lost in the round of 32. The year before that was Chet Holmgren to Gonzaga. They lost in the Sweet 16. But then Paulo Banchero made the Final Four for Duke. He was the number 2. It was like Darren and AJ.
Yeah.
Holmgren, Paulo, depending on publications, people disagreed. So that's why I put both of them there. So what's interesting about this is the only time a team has made it past the Sweet 16 with a top 2 or 3 recruit, or 3 of like the top 4 or 5, has been Duke twice. With Paulo and then Cooper Flagg making the Final Four. It hasn't been an immediate return on investment success in March, which is what Kansas has to do now moving forward. I said this when he was being recruited, and it's not now he's going to Kansas revisionist history thing. It's not. I hope it works out for him. I hope he is a stud. I hope the roster is constructed in a way that helps Kansas get to the tournament and make the run that they've been missing. I don't endear myself to Mizzou fans when I say that.
That's big of you because I don't.
Oh, I know. But that's the thing is I moved away for 10 years and I saw how absurd the rivalrying was. Like I saw it firsthand of Louisville and Kentucky. And I'm like, these people are children. So I decided, why wouldn't I root for the local teams? Because it does help the show. Do I want them to win a national championship? No. But that's different than saying, I hope they lose every game. I want them to be successful. It's better for the show, let's be honest. But I said this at the time when he was eliminating teams and he came down to his top 3 of Kansas, Kentucky, Oregon. Not in that order. We know it was in that order. I said, beware what you wish for with this. He seemed to be a guy that had a more difficult recruitment. He seemed to be a guy that wanted to be pampered a little bit more, wanted more of the attention, wanted to there's one thing to make sure I'm making the right decision. Okay, that's fine. You can string it out. You don't want to make a rash decision and be on campus somewhere and go, this is amazing, I'm committing right now. But there's also the level of some of the things that could be his camp that might be a little more difficult to deal with. And Kansas went down the Darren Peterson route last year. And so I offer the beware what you wish for. It may work out. He may be an absolute stud. But there's only been a couple of these top recruits that have led their teams through the NCAA tournament and a run. And that's what it's about for Kansas. That's what it's about. It's not about just getting number 1 recruits. Okay? It's cool if you get number 1 recruits. That's fun. But to your point, Sterling, the sort of tempered enthusiasm of, okay, you got them, now what, is where Kansas basketball is right now. 4 consecutive years without making a second weekend. And they've gone down the road of number 1 transfer portal player, number 1 high school player, now number 1 high school player again, 2 top 15 kids in TK and Stokes. My concern is, 1, beware what you wish for. If he becomes a headache, hopefully he doesn't. But also, how do Stokes and TK coexist on the floor at the same time? Because they had trouble figuring out Melvin Council and Darren Peterson coexisting on the floor at the same time. It didn't help all of the games that Darren missed early in the season in practices, so it set him behind. if you've got more of Stokes and TK figuring it out, and Blyden as well, transfer, point guard, maybe TK's a combo, Blyden's your point guard, Stokes is, your power forward, but also wants to handle the ball too.
Yeah.
Also wants to bring the ball up the floor.
A point forward situation.
Yeah, there are 3 guys that might be on the floor that all want the ball in their hands to succeed. That's where Bill Self has to figure that out.
And what's funny is you're actually seeing in the NBA that go away. You're just if you want a little comparison of what I find interesting in the trajectory of basketball and how it's changed so much. You look in the NBA now, look at some of the teams that are having success. It's not always about do you have the best players. It's do you have the best fit. And I find that to be, because it used to be just, hey, I don't care. Give me the best players. Give me Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. We'll find a way because they're so talented. Well, you're looking around that's why I think the Mavs did such a good job. I mean, we can go back years and years. We have examples of, you don't always have to, yeah, you had Dirk, but you also had 40-year-old Jason Kidd and 42-year-old Jason Terry and 36-year-old Tyson Chicken Nugget Chandler. I mean, you had
Jason Chandler.
But you had so many different guys, but they all had a role.
Yeah.
And so Kansas has to figure out, you're alluding to, they have to figure out how these guys fit. What is their role? Heck, I think even the Lakers at times, they've had so many issues with Luka and LeBron at the same time. All of a sudden, one goes out, what happens? They're 3-1 because they can't both handle the ball at the same time. The Nuggets, they have Jamal Murray and they have Nikola Jokic, but look at the other guys in between. It's why they gave Christian Brown, who's really struggled, but that much money because they go, he's not a ball handler. He can just be a spot-up shooter and play defense. Like, the game has evolved a little bit, and if you look at the NBA, that's the best example of how we've seen it evolve. If you have 3 ball handlers that all want the ball, your team's not going to work. It doesn't make any sense. So I do wonder how it's going to work in Kansas. Missouri, kind of the same thing. We'll see. But someone's going to have to be passive. Someone's going to have to be a spot-up shooter. Someone's going to have to be the Klay Thompson to Steph. And that's why the Warriors were so good. That's why they didn't need Durant, because that's another guy who wants the ball in his hands. But Durant also is a separate situation where he was a spot-up shooter at times too. He understood his role. He didn't always have to have the ball in his hands. I don't know where Kansas is going to find this fit, especially down low. That's why I do think that Bryson Tiller loss, I know it's a joke. I'm not trying to say it as a Mizzou fan here, but the reason why it's a big loss is because he could shoot threes if you wanted your 5 to not clog the middle. Because if Stokes is trying to drive and your big guy's down low, well, okay, now what happens?
I would feel much better about the Kansas team so we talked about Momcilovic.
Yes.
I don't know how much money's still left for Kansas in the transfer portal or NIL after you spend it on Stokes. But is there enough money for Paul McNeil from NC State, who's a 6'5", 180 shooting guard that shot 44% from behind the arc last year for NC State as a top 40 transfer portal guy, one of the top players still uncommitted? You bring in Stokes and then that guy?
Yeah.
Well, then I think if Cole improves and McNeil is out there, you'd have a couple of shooters where TK and Stokes could be guys that drive and kick with Keanu Dawes, who is just a dog on the boards that's in there, and Stokes is a willing rebounder.
Yeah.
You aren't as big, but you're more physical with a playmaker in TK, a downhill attacker in Stokes, a defender, rebounder, good player in Dawes, and 2 legit shooters on the wing. Now I feel much better about what Kansas can do. It feels like so much is now on the plate for Cole Rosario to become a consistent, good three-point shooter.
Correct.
And I don't know that that's going to be the case for him.
How big is Cole? He's 6'6".
It's a good question.
He's 6'6". Listen, 6'6".
Yeah. So, I don't know what I'm just looking at like the transfers that are still available that offer you three-point shooting. And he's one of the few that's still out there. McNeil made 43% on 246 attempts.
Well,
he's not just 43% on 60 shots. I mean, he shot the ball almost 250 times from behind the arc and made 43% of them.
I will say Bill Self has tried many things since the 2022? Was that the Remy Martin season?
Yeah,
Yes.
national championship.
Yeah. So that was 2022. Since then, he's tried a lot of different ways to either recreate it or change. He's tried the transfer portal. He's tried to get the best freshman recruits last year and then now this year. He tried saying, hey, we're going to get three-point shooters, and so we're going to bring in Rylan
Griffin, yeah.
And I was thinking Ryan Stiles of Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Well, yeah.
And AJ Store.
And AJ Store.
He also shoots a shot on Whose Line. So.
And AJ, like, he's tried this, and so
Store more of a scorer rather than just a shooter.
sure, but also Timberlake.
Yeah.
I do wonder if he's adjusting or if he's just trying to figure out what's, because this is now back-to-back years where he's tried this philosophy.
And maybe it's the philosophy of give me the talent and I'll figure it out.
But now you have to figure it out because
But he does.
You also
Yeah.
have to realize maybe he goes, last year I didn't put the right guys around Darren. So maybe he learns that, hey, I know what I did wrong last year. Give me about a similar player, very different style of player, but as far as the alpha, the guy, and I'm going to create a team around him that I learned from last year's mistakes of not putting enough shooters around him.
I do wonder, too, with Stokes, like he's such a dominant player. His body is just different for an 18, 19-year-old. Like Darren Peterson's athleticism, and people have said he's the best, like, smoothest scorer that gets to his spots easy, and it just reminds you. Not saying he's this guy, but it's the closest you can remember to somebody that reminds you of what Jordan looked like when he was younger and coming up because of how smooth he is, the jump shot, how easy he gets to his spot. He makes it look effortless. He's creating separation from high-level D1 defenders, and it doesn't look like he's really putting up that much energy to do it. He's just that gifted. Stokes' body is just different in that I feel like he can bully a lot of guys his size. Like it feels like, not saying he is this guy, but people don't find LeBron's game as aesthetically pleasing because sometimes he's just driving down the lane and I'm just bigger and stronger than you and I'm going to outmuscle you and get to the hole. That's had to develop over the years because he wasn't that guy when he got into the league. He was a skinnier dude and he's put on weight and he's stronger and he's been able to do that. That feels like what Stokes can do at times. I think he's going to be, more skilled than just a bowling ball in the open floor. But does that translate to then dominating guys who are older in college basketball with the transfer portal the way that you could do at the high school level? If he's not yet a 3-level scorer and may not be that his 1 year at Kansas to be able to bring the defender outside of the arc and they just play off and make you shoot, which makes it a little more difficult to get the momentum going to really drive and use your body and your physical strength.
Cam Boozer was kind of a different playing styles, obviously, but Cam Boozer, that's why I've always thought his NBA prospects were a little interesting because he was just bully ball. Cam Boozer, that's what he did. Almost like Julius Randle.
He's more skilled though, Boozer
a little
around the block. Like he
had
a number of...
No, he was, but it was a lot of I'm bigger and stronger, and you get to the NBA and you're like, okay, that might not work. Julius Randle had to adjust like that because Julius Randle was like that. Randle in college, that's what he did. And then in the NBA, he realized I have to adjust and change and learn how to shoot and learn how to have some moves, and he's had a nice career for himself. But Stokes, to me, again, a little different body size, but is that what he's going to be like? Can he just bully small forwards? You get a guard on him. Can he just bully ball down low?
And we may or may not like the NIL and transfer portal era, but we're talking college basketball on April 29th when the Royals have won 4 straight games and they're only 2.5 games out of first after their disastrous start. We're 2 days away from rookie minicamp for the Chiefs and only a couple days removed from the draft. And we're talking about college basketball and the building of the rosters because, let's be honest, some of the most fun parts of sports is building a roster.
Yeah.
It goes back to our fantasy football days, fantasy baseball days of the draft and putting the roster together, and it's so fun how you do it, allocation or resources allocation and all that stuff. And we're whether you like it or not, I've talked about it that I like it because there's way more interest in college basketball outside of just the games that are played. So we'll see what happens with Tyron Stokes and what happens moving forward. We'll take a timeout, wrap up this hour. We'll get into Royals at 11 o'clock because Jeff Montgomery will join us. We'll talk with him. Daniel Holmes coming up at noon. A lot of Chiefs to get into. A number of things that I want to talk about with the Chiefs and really break down from the perspective of the draft versus the salary cap and some of the contractual implications of free agency versus the draft picks. More Zone coming up next.
a happy hour, and you don't even have to be boozing. FanDuel is serving up a happy hour every day during the playoffs. We're talking special drops you do not want to miss, from profit boost to bonus bets and more. It is all right there on the best damn app that is FanDuel. And the best part, it's every single day. So make sure when you wake up, go ahead and check FanDuel. And again, every day around 5 p.m. Central Time. Happy hour. Go ahead and check it before the NBA games tip off. Tonight, there are 3 games. Detroit, can they stave off elimination against Orlando? Lakers trying to close it. No KD for Houston. And then 2-2, Toronto and Cleveland facing off. I was wrong yesterday. I thought the Sixers were going to roll, lay over, and die. They didn't. Thank you, Joel Embiid. Wait, right when I'm out, you bring me back in again. Can't wait to be disappointed. But it's okay, because FanDuel makes me happy. What you need to do is head to FanDuel.com/local to get started.
21 plus and present in Missouri. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirements, and max wager amount. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, wrapping up this hour. If we don't get into it at some point today, which we may, the NCAA expanding the tournament to 76 teams.
Boo.
There will be 12 games, 24 teams in the play-in Tuesday and Wednesday now. Everything's going to be the exact same except for you're going to have 8 more games that are going to be played on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Which is awesome. I'm in for more games because
really all it
it's
is.
fun. I like more games, but it also annoys me because I want to be old man yells at cloud, and I'm so annoyed of the bubble as soft as it was this year.
It is a way to.
I don't need to see Auburn play.
But it is a way to handle the arguments on the court, though. It's like this team versus that team. Is this team better than that team? I don't know.
Yeah,
Go
but
play.
now Team 77 is going to say, "What about us?"
Oh, I know. Just like Team 65 was pissed, and then the Mountain West was formed, and they added a team to go to 65, and then Team 66 was pissed, and then they went to 68, and Team 69
I don't
was
need
pissed.
to see a 6-12 SEC team play.
What if it's Mizzou?
I love it. I think it's great, dude. No, but I mean, honestly, I would say they don't deserve to be in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to see these six, because everyone's going to say, well, now, good, it's for the little guys. No,
It's not.
all you're going to get is more six. Look at the teams that it's going to be Indiana, it's going to be Auburn, it's going to be the teams.
It's going to be more power conference.
It's going to be more power conference teams, and that's my frustration is they play all year long in these, and I get it. If you want to say that Auburn was better than, I don't know, name a who was even the conversation? Miami, Ohio.
Yeah.
I get it, but you had the opportunities. You didn't do it. Sorry. You also are in a big conference. You might be a better team, but that's what the money's for.
True.
You pay more money because you're in the SEC. So win your games.
Or like Texas, or NC State, or SMU. Those were the final teams in.
Again, I don't know, man. That's my old man yells at cloud is I like it because there's more games.
Yeah.
Fully admit, awesome. More games, more fun. But I also get annoyed of we're going to have these same conversations, and these are teams that I don't give a hoot. They should not be in.
So it'll be last 4 buys, and then last 12 in.
It'd be kind of cool if they did it for like some of the mid-major conferences. If you win your conference, you
Yes.
get in.
Yes.
And then they play the teams that maybe win their conference tournament.
Yes, I'm with you, Darcy. This should be, in my opinion, best record in the mid-major, and then that way, if you also win and they're two different teams, then both teams get in.
Those games would be
yeah.
electric.
Yeah,
too.
that's not going to be the case, though. Because what they've done is, if you look at the 12 games, all 16 seeds will now be playing in the first 4. So it's not just 2 16-seed games that are going to be played. It's going to be 4 games with the 16 seeds. 2 games that will involve 15 seeds. So there's 6 games already that are the 15 and 16 seeds. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Daniel Harms. We'll hang out with Mick Schaefer as well. Right now, let's talk some Royals baseball. Jeff Montgomery joining us here in the zone. Monty, how you doing?
Well, doing great, Jason, especially since the last time we had a chance to talk a couple weeks ago. This team seems to finally have put the losing streak behind them and playing the kind of baseball that we kind of hoped they were going to be playing from the get-go.
Yeah, what a difference it makes now. They just look so much different on the field. I guess energy also looks different too. Do you think in these, it's a 4-game winning streak. Those will happen over the course of the season, winning 5 of 6. Do you think with the way the offense is sort of playing, is this the stretch you think we've been waiting for, that this is the beginning of something and not just a quick little 5-game spurt or something?
Well, you hope so. I've known that, and unfortunately, when you go through your slumps, it just seems like you're not as bad as you really look like you are, and then when you go through these streaks, you're probably not as good as you really look like you are. But I think somewhere in between is this team, and fortunately with the talent level, it's finally starting to play itself out and seeing the kind of things that we'd hoped to see, consistently during the course of the year. And every team, good teams, bad teams, you're going to go through those ups and downs. And when you have it early in the year, it just puts a lot of doubt, in people's mind and people wondering, is this team really the kind of team that we thought it was going to be? And are they going to have a competitive team, make the entire summer interesting and, be a contending team when it comes September? So those answers will come shortly, but I think we're starting to see some positive signs here.
I know the 3 runs came in extra innings, but this is a team that on the homestand scored 5 and then 6 and 6, and then starting against the Angels, 6, 12, 11, and then 4 last night. What's been different, do you think, about this offense coming back from New York and getting the homestand started and now the first game on the road?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you're starting to see some of your big bats at the top of the lineup do what you expect them to do and what you really knew they were going to do. It's just a matter of time. And the longer you go into the season without that production, the more question marks start to arise. Is he beyond his prime? Is he for real? All those questions start to come up. And I remember last year at this stage, the team started slow. Then they went on that run. I think they won like 16 out of 18 or 19 games. Yeah. About the same time of the year that they're starting to play better baseball now. So, you just have to hope that you're able to do it consistently and stay away from those longer streaks where, like I said earlier, it's like every team goes through them. Even the teams that are at the top, at the end of the year, they're going to have those stretches for a couple of weeks where they don't look like the kind of team that, the record says they are. But you find ways to get out of it. It's not fun. It's not easy. A lot of pressure, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like we saw when they had that 8-game losing streak, all the pressure, low-scoring games, weren't getting hits with, runners on scoring position, and it kind of magnifies everything. And now that you're starting to see some production, you're starting to see better at-bats and less pressure, and guys not trying to do everything themselves to try to help the team get out of the funk that they get in. So, again, it's a long season, and things are just now, kind of starting to play themselves out the way you hope they would.
What does a game on Sunday like that? Maybe it's good that there's an off day after it so you can really enjoy it and have some good vibes. Maybe it's bad because you're itching to get back out there and play. But you're down by 3 runs with 2 outs and nobody on in the bottom of the 9th inning, and somehow you come back and win the game and score 6 runs in the next 2 innings. What does a game like that do for a team as they get ready for a road trip?
Well, it was a huge win. I think, obviously everybody in uniform on the field believes that they have a way to get it done, but certainly the odds were stacked against them. But I think it really can be a good thing for your, for your psyche as far as understanding and knowing that you have that ability to come back even when it seems like the final nail's about ready to go into the coffin. But it's really good to have that game. And, I've mentioned this a couple times. Last year, this team, they only lost, or they didn't lose a game if they were winning after 8 innings. They were 73-0 last year if they were leading after 8 innings. And this year, they've already lost 3 games when leading after 8 innings. And obviously that, points fingers at the bullpen. But what you have to do is you have to find a way to make up those 3 games that you lost that you should have won. And that game on Sunday, to me, was 1 out of the 3 that they have to win that maybe you don't expect them to win. So you got to pull some things out of the fire occasionally, and they did that on Sunday. So, again, certainly moving in the right direction.
We haven't. I haven't had my worries about Bobby Witt. I know he hadn't hit any home runs until a couple of days ago. So it was like it's a matter of time before it will happen. But baseball's so crazy, Monty, because his underlying numbers and metrics show that he's hitting the ball just as hard as he always has, and line drives and all of that stuff. He goes 57 straight plate appearances without a home run, the longest stretch of his career. Then he went 5 in between home runs. Baseball is just, you played it your whole life. It's one of those games where you just can't even really explain the oddities that happen over the course of a season. And it ain't like Bobby's swinging any different than he was a couple of weeks ago. It's just, how the game plays sometimes.
Yeah, I think I never had to climb in a box, to try to hit major league pitching, but it's not easy. We know that, and we know that it's really a difficult task when these guys, try to do what they do for a living. But when you have the ability like a Bobby Witt Jr., certainly there's an expectation that you're kind of a Superman and you're going to do it, every 6 out of 6 months of the season consistently, start to finish. And it's just not the way that things work. And the greatest player I ever played with is George Brett, and he even went through stretches where he was frustrated, and he's hitting the ground ball to second every time he goes to the plate, and he called it hitting into the canoe. Like there's 11 guys over there in a canoe, and he's hitting it right to him every time. There's funks that you get into, but his speed, you're not going to see him go through very many stretches like we just saw him put it into a few days back. So good for Bobby, good for the team, but I saw Bobby go through some of those frustrating moments where you just see that look on his face, like he feels like, hey, I let myself down and let the team down by not getting the job done. But now that he's starting to produce, I think that really goes a long way, for everybody in that entire lineup.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Speaking of George Brett, a couple of days ago was the anniversary. Would you have hit Brett for Miller with the bases loaded there in the 7th? As was asked to Hal McRae in 1993 on April 26th, that had one of the maybe the greatest managerial rants we've ever seen. Hitting Brett for Miller there with bases loaded against a right-handed pitcher seems like it was something that is a legitimate question.
Going back to that was just one of those moments that a lot of head scratching and a lot of attention on that one. But it's just interesting. Some of those little things that you look back on in the game, and you just have those almost like it happened yesterday moments. But it's always fun, and when those moments arise, it's obviously ones we don't forget.
Is that one of those to where you feel like it just happened yesterday with that rant? And I'm wondering what it was like for the players in the clubhouse and when you guys saw that or heard about it.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was something that you didn't expect, but Hal McRae is Hal McRae, and you never know what to expect from Hal.
That's great. Visiting with Jeff Montgomery, our guest here. Any concerns about Vinny? I'm really happy of what he said last night with Andy Rogers, and said that it just wouldn't loosen up for him. It's not great to have a back injury, but it doesn't seem like or feel like it's an IL stint. It's something they have been managing, and he just couldn't get it loose. He had the double, had the long at bat, but then that ground out couldn't really get out of the box and turn the swing into running. Any concern there with Vinny and a back injury that he said they've been dealing with for, quote, a while?
Well, I think you always have concern when a guy has to come out of the game, but unlike you, the comments and the fact that he's just saying, hey, it's April and we got to be smart about this thing, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
But think about it, he had a triple the other day, he had a double, so he's maybe putting a little bit more mileage on his wheels than he has to. I like to see, Vinny, the way he's having his long ABs at the plate, working pitchers. That tells me that Vinny is really getting to where he needs to be. So hopefully that back is going to be a short-term issue. We'll find out if he's in the lineup there tonight. But even if he's not, I think it's something that, he understands it. The medical staff understands it, and they'll just do their best to kind of, keep it under control so he doesn't have any.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery here in the Zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB. One more on the offense, and I want to get your thoughts on a couple of the pitching parts on this. But what is the impact for Jonathan India being lost for the season with the surgery for the torn labrum? What does that do for this team and maybe the next guys down the line?
Well, I know when the Royals signed Jonathan India last winter, there were some question marks on whether they were even going to be able to bring him back based on, where he was going to be from what the price tag was going to be, and they would hope that he was going to be that guy that was going to give them that additional depth with regards to ability, especially at second base. But fortunately, Michael Massey's back. I think it just basically says, hey, this is what we got to work with, and this is how we're going to move forward. We don't have the options we had when India was available to us, but it's an opportunity now for Michael Massey to really do. That's been an issue for him consistently throughout his career, being available most every night to go out there and play. But I think you certainly hate to lose a guy that has experience, a guy that you can kind of factor in exactly what it is being. To me, the second part of last season, India started to be that kind of player that the Royals had hoped when they made the trade with Brady Singer to get him. And then, coming out of spring training, it looked like he was going to be kind of picking up where he left off last year. So it's unfortunate for Jonathan India that he's going to miss the balance of the year.
Jeff Montgomery is our guest. I want to talk about the pitching side and what a dominant performance from Cole Reagans after taking the comebacker and then struggling in New York. When he's on like that, Monty, pitcher to pitcher, watching him, when he's pitching like that, what makes him so dominant to where he's now have 4 different starts in a Royals uniform of 10 or more strikeouts and no walks?
Just saying, Reagans is just trusting his stuff. His stuff is really, really good. And when he's in the strike zone, he can get guys out. A lot of guys have to set up pitches and pitch out of the strike zone or on the edges. Cole Reagans just went out and established himself from the first batter on that he's going to be, 96, 97, 98 miles an hour in that strike zone, try to hit it. He'd give up that solo home run, but he's got such really good stuff, and the complementary pitches go along with that fastball. So it's great to see him get on track. I mean, that's going to go so far for him with regards to the confidence to establish himself to be the kind of pitcher that he expects to be and what the Royals need for him to be. But, after that start in New York, I had a chance to visit with him a couple days before his last start, and he just said that he went kind of back to the drawing board and made things as basic as he possibly could and kind of come out swinging, and that's exactly what we saw from him in his last start.
Visiting with Jeff Montgomery. Last one for you on the bullpen. You'd mentioned a couple of those losses this year with the bullpen. They make the move to bring up Luinder Avila. I know that they have wanted him to be a starter and keep him stretched out and pitch a number of innings. But is the move there from the Royals to say, it's not panic, but there's more urgency that you fall behind and you put yourself in this hole that you can't plan or prepare. You can prepare, but you can't wait for the end of the season and say, well, we're going to keep Avila stretched out as a starter just in case we need him in August and September. We kind of need him now because we don't have enough swing and miss and low walk guys in the bullpen. Is that the message for Avila being brought back up, that there's more of an urgency right now rather than keeping that depth as the starting staff later on in the year?
Results. They want production. They want to see guys that in a perfect world, you have a guy like Avila who's long term. What you're going to get, you're kind of developing him, at the big league level to some degree. But what we saw from him last year was just some dominance, his ability to fill up the strike zone. It was much different, this first time around this year than we saw from him last year. But we know it's in there. We know that. He has the ability to miss bats, and that's one thing I think they really need, is they need somebody who can come in and miss bats in situations coming in and out of that bullpen, especially, high traffic situations, and the ability to get a guy out without making contact. So I think, they're just hopeful that he's going to be that kind of guy, and we know, again, that at this level.
visiting with Jeff Montgomery. Last one for you. We've talked about Michael Wacha before, and he's a guy that had just a phenomenal start to the season and still does, but he had that rough outing against Baltimore, 5 1/3 and 6 earned runs. What do you think we'll see from Michael Wacha tonight against Sacramento, Oakland, Vegas, whatever, the A's, and getting a chance to bounce back from that start?
Well, the A's are a team that certainly, to me, is one of the prizes in baseball. They're just a game over, but I think it's a team that a lot of people expected to be bottom, and obviously it's very early in the season, roughly 30 games in, but they're a team that has some abilities. They got some hitters on that team that are maybe a lot of guys that people haven't heard a lot about, but they certainly make it work. But I look for Wacha to go out there and do his best to do exactly what we saw from Cole Reagans after he had that rough start in New York, and that's kind of right the ship and be a guy that is going to kind of say, hey, this is my game. I'm going to find a way to help this team win, and that's exactly what you hope from a veteran guy like Wacha that's looking for that bounce back opportunity.
I hate to double back here, but I wrote it down right before Cole Reagans, and I skipped over it. Didn't mean to skip over it, so I know that was the last one, but one more. How impressive was the Lugo start on Sunday? I mean, he gives up 15 base runners, 7 earned runs pitching into the 7th, but I still look back and go, it was one of the more impressive, sort of grittier, gutty, pitching performances you see, because he didn't have his stuff, but he went out there and just ate up innings and innings and still, to a degree, kept them in the game, even though giving up 7 earned runs. What did you see from Seth Lugo in that game?
Well, it's one of those games that you just kind of scratch your head and say, how in the world did they get that many runs off of a guy like Lugo that has so many different pitches to offer? But it's all about location. And, when you're going into a Sunday, winning the first 2 games, I don't think there's what you call a letdown, but I think, you've already won the series, and sometimes there's, to me, just a little bit of an inability to close things out and get that sweep. Things were wacky because the game time was changed. Yeah. And I know the Angels were coming out, looking to find a way to win that baseball game after after losing the first 2 games of the series and the way that those games went. But Lugo's got great stuff. And, he was like we saw him have on Sunday, but it was really nice for him to save that bullpen and then eventually the offense come back and recapture all those runs and win that baseball game. To me, obviously one of the most exciting wins of the year.
Yeah. Jeff Montgomery, our guest. Monty, appreciate the time as always, brother. Enjoy the baseball, and we will talk next week when we are in the middle of a really big homestand with the Guardians and the Tigers. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Sounds great. Have a great day, Jason.
You do the same. There is Jeff Montgomery joining us as the Royals get set for Game 2 of the 3-game set against the A's tonight after winning in extra innings yesterday. Back-to-back games in which they won in extras. One was a walk-off. Last night still had to get the job done in the bottom part of the 10th inning. But Bobby Witt with the 3-run home run, a couple of 3-run home runs in the 10th inning, back-to-back days for the Royals. And they hopefully will keep it going and the hot streak and the hot hitting as well. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling more zone right after this. All right, thank you to Jeff Montgomery. Royals in Sacramento. 2 more games on this 3-game series before heading to Seattle to wrap up a 6-game road trip. Royals winning 4 in a row, and somehow, after their absolute disastrous start and losing 8 games in a row, somehow they are only 2.5 games out of first in the Central. Somehow, because the AL Central is not playing all that great of baseball. But Royals sitting 12-17, 2.5 games out. Michael Wacha on the mound tonight. 8:40 when that game will start off. So thank you to Jeff Montgomery. We talked a lot of college basketball in the first hour, and obviously a lot of baseball there. Jonathan India done for the year. And now an opportunity for somebody who the Royals had been hoping would develop into their second baseman. Then they went out and made the trade for Jonathan India for Brady Singer, and obviously it did not work out. Now that his career with the Royals is essentially over, I don't know that they're going to bring him back for year number 3 of this run. We questioned whether they should bring him back for year number 2 at $8 million in this run. I was shocked and not really in favor of them spending $8 million on Jonathan India in the offseason. But he's done for the year now, which means Massey is now your second baseman, but also maybe Nick Lofton and some sort of a platoon. Massey, the strong side platoon, the better second baseman, defensive player over Jonathan India. Can he hit enough, get on base enough? Hopefully he can. But Nick Lofton has offered value in bouncing around to different spots, and his bat has been good enough for, the 26th man on the roster. What starts to become a little more of a concern is, Vinny said he's been dealing with the back injury for a while, or the tightness in his back for a while. I didn't notice it until Sunday when they won on the walk-off, and as Lane Thomas was coming home for everybody to jump up and down, Vinny's out there with a heating pad around his waist. And I'm like, was Vinny doing some squats? Is that a back brace for squatting? Is he in there doing some deadlifts, man?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you know what? You want to be safe. You always want to be safe. But he has to know, Vinny, if he's going to be doing that when you put on mass, you sacrifice flexibility. Everybody knows this.
That's why I do yoga, baby.
Absolutely. Everybody knows this. So I noticed it then, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But then clearly noticeable when he grounded out and then was pulled from the game. But looking back on that double, it was noticeable when he slid into second. Now knowing that he had this back tightness, you can see him as he starts to get up, like he sort of favors his back a little bit and then turns around to the dugout like, hey, it's all good. If you didn't know he was dealing with the back, you might have thought maybe he just lost his balance while he was doing a pop-up slide.
I said
but that wasn't the case.
The triple even, when he slid into third, I thought he looked uncomfortable sliding.
Yeah, I was uncomfortable with him attempting to go to third.
It didn't really matter, but
luckily they end up getting the win, and him
feel better about it.
Yes, stretching a double into a triple with 2 outs and down by 3.
I thought the slide looked awkward. It looked, and I know he's a big guy, and so I understand that, but it looked uncomfortable.
It looked like somebody that may be running fast, getting ready to hit the ground while having a back that's kind of tight and hurting him a little bit.
Agreed.
And like, how do I slide here and beat the throw? I've already committed, so I probably made a mistake here trying to stretch it into a triple. My eyes were hungrier than my stomach, and now I've got to slide into third, and I want to protect my back a little bit. But the at-bats he was having in the game were great. I mean, he sees 19 pitches in his first 2 at-bats. It's a double and a walk. He gets on base both times with 19 pitches. He told Andy Rogers that he's been dealing with it for a while. He couldn't get it loose yesterday, which is why it ended up bothering him a little bit more than some other games. It's something they're going to have to deal with, but also early in the season, while you want to play through it, you got to have a longer-term feel for what the season can mean. We talked about what we heard from Chris Bubich at spring training of him saying what he learned last year in trying to fight through some pain during the season, and then it cost him the rest of the year as he was trying to do that. Instead of dialing back, throttling down earlier, and being available for the full season. Vinny is struggling. So this is not a Bobby Witt move if you have to do this. But if he continues to struggle and his back is bothering him, why avoid a 10-day stint on the IL? Why wouldn't you just say, you know what, we can kill two birds with one stone? You can let that back rest, not have to worry about all of the fielding you're doing every day, clearly all of the hitting you're doing in the cage. He's trying to get out of this slump, Take the time, let it calm down, and then when you get back, you're sort of refreshed then. I'd be totally fine if the Royals do that, and I know that's not in the plans right now, but I think that might be good for a couple of different angles for Vinny. You don't want to send him down to the minor leagues because he's struggling. That's not going to happen. He's your everyday first baseman. He's batting third for you. But this is an opportunity to sort of do both.
We've seen a little glimpses recently of some better at-bats, even yesterday, as you mentioned.
For sure.
Again, the numbers are horrible, and it's going to take a while for him to climb out. The underlying metrics aren't great either. Again, you know my thoughts. I have more concerns about Vinny than Salvi. And so far, I think that's correct. I think we've seen Salvi start to piece together. He's never going to walk, but piece together some harder hit balls, even the one that didn't get out and the one that did get out. It feels like Salvi's starting to get close. Vinny still, every time you see a good at bat, you're like, it's followed up by one where you're going, man, that's just, he looks off. So I think you're right, a 10-day little back tightness IL stint makes a lot of sense. The roster's not great for that, but you can find a way. Is Cags moving to first base?
That's what I would wonder.
Is Salvi going to move to first, and then Elias Diaz and Carter Jensen?
So, you would have Carter's bat in there more often, but you would also get Diaz's bat in there more than it probably should.
His bat's been fine.
It's fine.
So,
or Marte in right field, and Cags is playing first. Or Nick Lofton at first, and then it's like, okay, Nick Lofton is now your first baseman. Or, again, I mentioned Cags. Yeah, and I mentioned Cags, and he's looking pretty comfortable in right field. So now you take him from right field to first base, which is odd in that, and totally ironic from a year ago to now, of, well, do you want to take him out of right field and put him at first base and start to switch things around? Yeah, it's whatever. I would like to not mess with him because, okay, if his bat is coming around, and unfortunately he did strike out late in the game, he did smoke one 450 feet foul on the previous pitch. But is that the way that you go about it? Is Cags is now your first baseman? He's played first base for a good portion of his life. He can play first base. If Nick Lofton is out there playing, the question would be, do you want Marte or Lofton in the lineup? They're both right-handed, so which do you feel comfortable with? Lofton at first and Cags in right field from lineup and also defensive positioning, or Cags at first base, Marte in right field, defensively, and the bats in the lineup. It could depend game by game, but I would say more often than not, you're going to have Cags and Salvi at first base.
I think it'll be a lot of Salvi at first base, a lot of Carter catching, and then rotating DH. I don't move Cags. I think Cags and right. I looked this up, and it's hard to believe because he's not simply been a fine outfielder or a fine for a 6'5", 250 guy. His range is in the 70th percentile. His arm value is the 96th percentile.
It limits 90 feet sometimes.
Yeah, and so I don't think Starling Marte is bad defensively. We know this. He's more of a DH, but his bat's probably better than Lofton overall for a sample. I know right now Lofton's been playing well, so you want to ride the hot hand, but I do think if we said who is a traditional better bat, who do you trust more for a 10-game stretch, I would probably say Starling Marte. But that's also him at DH because I don't want to move Cags from right.
Well, yeah, you know what? I would look at it two different ways. An extended stint for Vinny on the IL, and it's not. By the way, he's not going on the IL. We're just talking
about.
This
is hypothetical. If you wanted to let the back,
let the back heal and just say, you know what? Let also the mind rest a little bit. If it was an extended stay on the IL, then I would say you probably need to be looking at Cags more at first base because that's a natural first baseman if it's going to be there for a while. If it's a 10-game or 10-day quick IL stint, then I think you leave Cags alone in right field and you figure out first base with Lofton and Salvi and piecing it together that way for 10 days. You don't need a position change or throwing more on Cags' plate to play right field and then first base when ultimately he's on your team for his bat and he's playing really well in right field. So if you put him at first and Marte in right field, you've gotten worse defensively.
Yeah.
Are you so much better defensively at first base with Kaggs over Lofton or Salvi that it makes up for the drop-off in right field from Kaggs to Marte and that particular bat, Salvi at first, Carter catching, and then you have to figure out DHing and things like that. But if it's a short stint, if this is, let's say a couple days from now, Vinny, the back is still bothering him, and they go, dude, we're just going to put you on the 10-day IL. You get this thing figured out. And then, you know, it'll give you a mental rest, too, that you don't have to worry about going up to the plate all the time and looking at a 167 batting average and, you know, looking at a 270 on-base percentage. All right, so you don't have to keep doing that and trying to fight your way out of this. Give yourself a little break. We'll restart. We'll restart everything when you get back. Then you piece it together. If it's a back injury that gets worse and he's got to be down for a little bit of time, then I think you do examine Kaggs moving to first base as an everyday first baseman like you've had in Vinny.
I just don't touch Kaggs at this point, and I get you might have to if this does happen with Vinny, but what's funny is Kaggs is very close, I think, to really popping off.
Yeah.
I know the strikeout numbers are always going to be there, but if I look at a guy like Munetake, Murakami, you know, the White Sox.
Well, the White Sox, yeah.
If you want to look at some of what they both do well, now, I'm not saying Kaggs should have 12 home runs, but
I think he should.
But if you look at like the barrel percentage, the hard hit percentage, the average exit velo, the bat speed, those two guys are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kaggs' average exit velo this year is 99th percentile. 99th percentile. There's always going to be a lot of swing and miss in his game. Same thing with Murakami. I'm not saying that I'm expecting him to, again, be a 940 OPS guy right now, but you look at it, and a lot of the metrics, those two guys are eerily similar, and a lot of the power numbers and what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just team play Kaggs as much as possible.
Oh,
play him in
yeah.
right field, play him against lefties, let him work this out, because you see the glimpses. And when you see what Munetake's doing for the White Sox, I find myself saying, why can't Kaggs do that?
Yeah, I mean...
The profiles are similar.
Yeah.
Fewer walks, but the
Right.
profiles are very similar. A lot of swing and miss. You shouldn't be hitting a lot of singles. You're almost looking at 3 true outcomes is what you kind of want Kaggs to be.
Yeah, and look, there's a chance that... And I think we also examined, like we talked about with Noah Cameron last year, I think you also examined to a degree that Kaggs is starting to break out a little bit because of how they've handled him with lefties at times. So then it's like, okay, do you play him more and then he regresses, or you give him more and more on his plate incrementally to then he just becomes an everyday player like Vinny, lefty, righty, whoever's out there on the mound, and you don't get into a situation where you were last year when he was one of the worst players in baseball last year.
Do we know what he did I'm going to look up what he did in the minors.
He crushed.
No. Crushed
He
a lot.
destroyed everybody.
But I wanted to know, lefty, righty, was there I'm trying to find if I can find the splits. I'm struggling here.
I think he smoked lefties too.
But that's kind of my point. I
But
think
you're also not going up against
No, I know.
the Major League Baseball.
But we get to this-
lefties that are ridiculous against some of these guys.
We get to this so often where I just find it hilarious to me personally. The lefties will rake against lefties in the minors, but they get to the majors and it goes, oh, he's a lefty. Can't play him. Well, why? He was good against him in the minors.
Well, I think if you play him early on and he's struggling early on, you go, okay, well, now we need to figure out how do you go and maximize what he offers for this team. And is that maximizing the lefty righties, or you get him out of the game when it's a really dominant lefty?
Yes.
I mean, they've had him in there versus lefties this year. He's batted and started games against left-handed pitchers. He just didn't do it when it was Sale and Detmers, who are pretty tough lefties to go up against, or guys that are really tough on left-handed hitters. So
it looks like in the minors, he OPS'd 841 against lefties.
what did he OPS against righties, though? Like
795.
He only OPS 795 against.
This is 2025
righties.
in 128 games in 2025. Is this correct? 27 home runs, 90 RBIs, 257, 334, slugged 475. It's what I see. It's what I have.
Okay.
I know, I'm with you. It seems a little low, but
Yeah.
he actually was better against lefties than righties. So, just throwing that out there.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to talk a little bit about what Matt Miller said on his top 100 picks, values, fits, where some Chiefs players come in, and then also examining the contracts, the salary cap, the monetary implications of the offseason, the free agency, and the NFL draft, and what the Chiefs were able to accomplish over those 3 days, and what the holistic picture looks like in the plan from 25 to 26. We'll get into that as well. More Zone next. All right, man, if you're out there and suffering from erectile dysfunction, there's no reason to wait around and hope that it can fix itself on its own. It is something that Heartland Men's Health can work with you to figure out what the underlying condition, the cause is, and get that fixed and have treatments that can work directly for that. It is an underlying condition that can be caused by many different things. Also, then in turn, can cause many different issues in your life: depression, arguments, breakups, contributing to divorce, even outside of the bedroom, maybe things affecting you in your work life and things like that. Heartland Men's Health, they have treatments with success rates well over 90%. They have been successfully treating men in the Kansas City area. Schedule a consult with Heartland Men's Health today. Your initial visit, it's only $99, and that includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test. And if medically advised, you get a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit, it's free. If it does, there you go. They have an expert staff with 3 locations to serve you: Overland Park, Independence, between Blue Springs and Lee Summit, and North Kansas City. Call them today at 844-447-6600. Tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, 844-447-6600, or visit heartlandmenshealth.com. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Daniel Holmes coming up at noon, RGR Football and Bleacher Report. Joining us, talking about the NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs, what they accomplished with their 7 selections over the 3 days, and revamping areas of the team, replenishing, restructuring, recalibrating, all of the things that this offseason seemed to need. And part of that was that immediate trade-up to go get Mansour Delane. When I look at the overall impact of what the secondary looks like this year, they had Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and we can throw in Brian Cook, but I'm just going to stick with just the secondary pieces. I don't know what role Kennedy will play. Well, let's say he plays the slot. And as we look at what last year's cornerback position was, which was McDuffie, Watson, and then Connor, Christian Roland Wallace in the slot. Fulton was there. Noel Williams, a guy that was there that ended up playing late in the season when they were out of it and injuries took place. So we know McDuffie's gone, Jalen Watson's gone. They combined for $134 million of guaranteed dollars in their contract. Plus, you got the first, third, and fifth for Trent McDuffie, the third rounder next year. The total value of the contracts for Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson was $175 million. Now, I doubt either of them will see the full life of that contract. You never do. The average per year is $48 million combined with McDuffie and Jalen Watson, what the Rams are paying, plus the first-round pick. Now we know they spent that first-round pick on Peter Woods, but it also allowed them to move from 9 up to 6 to take the cornerback because they had that need. Well, we can talk about just player for player, but there's the overall team building, the talent acquisition, the resource allocation that takes place in how you do this. They've got a lot of money to Chris Jones. They've got a lot of money to Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey, obviously Patrick Mahomes. They paid a lot of money to Kenneth Walker, relatively speaking, for his position.
Heck, I think Jalen Moore's making a pretty good chunk of change, too.
Jalen Moore's,
even for a right tackle.
Right. A guy that's $17 million against the cap this year for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're eating the $7 million against the cap for Jawan Taylor.
Tonga's a decent contract. Karloff is a decent contract.
Absolutely. So they've got some guys that obviously you're paying a lot of money for. And then they've got some guys that are cheaper on rookie deals and lower-level deals and things like that. The decision of McDuffie and Watson, like the Rams made, you wouldn't have to give up the first-rounder like the Rams did, first, third, and fifth. But if you're paying them $134 million guaranteed for the two of them, the Chiefs at pick number 6, and then taking Jadon Kennedy in the 4th round, and if you add slot and outside corner to replace McDuffie and Watson, but Noel Williams comes in. So if you're looking at 3 corners and say it's McDuffie, Watson, Noel Williams, and now it's Mansour Delane, Noel Williams, and Jadon Kennedy. Are you better or worse? Probably early on you're going to be worse. Now, if Connor's playing the slot, I think we can make an argument that you might be better of those 3. But let's assume if we're...
You mean if Kennedy's playing slot over Connor?
Yeah, but if Connor's playing the slot, you might be better with this group already if Connor's out of the slot and Kennedy's in there.
Correct, I get what you're
versus
saying. Versus
McDuffie and Watson against Mansour Delane and Noel Williams. It's kind of tough to go, well, this group's going to be better than that group. Maybe down the road, maybe eventually. Maybe in week 12 we're going, wow, look at this. This is better. But when you add in just simply the players with what it costs against the salary cap and the roster and how much you're paying these guys, Delane and Kennedy are combining for $47 million guaranteed. over the course of the contract. That is saving.
And Delane's what, 42?
Yeah. That is saving $87 million of guaranteed dollars over the next 4 years. It is a savings of $36 million per year over the next 4 years with McDuffie and Watson, as opposed to Mansour Delane and Jadon Kennedy. If we're saying Fulton or Watson, Noah Williams, and let's put McDuffie in the slot, who we know is an all-pro player. So those three guys.
I would almost throw Cater Kohu into the equation as well.
We might,
I
but
think
just
for transparency.
Yeah,
for,
but I wanted
for
to look
fairness.
at the draft though specifically.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
in replenishing through the draft and saying, okay, was Mansour Delane worth it? Because look at the value. You gave up a third and a fifth to move up to get Mansour Delane, while you had another first rounder that you were not going to touch. And as the reports came out, and you said that on Friday night too, as Brett Veach, that 29 and 40, they did not want to touch them. So how far can you get up with 74 and then a sweetener in the fifth round? You can get up to number 6, and that's probably as high as they were going to attempt to move up in the draft. You've got two guys that hopefully one can come close to matching McDuffie. Noel Williams can come close to matching Jalen Watson. And Kennedy, good God, I would hope that he would come close to, if we're just looking at that outside of Cater Kohu, because I think there are options there.
I get you right.
But if Kennedy can specifically come close to, if he doesn't come close to it, that would be awful. If he can match, hopefully exceed what Shamari Connor offered in the slot, how much worse are you of those three guys in your top three corners, 2 outside and 1 nickel, while saving $87 million guaranteed dollars over the next 4 years, which is a huge cap implication too.
Well, and you would hope that money could eventually be used on a edge rusher, but
yeah,
we'll
it might be.
out. And
maybe next offseason they go out and go, well, now Chris Jones is off the, well, depending on what they do with Chris Jones, with some of that
Travis
stuff.
Kelce,
right,
slightly on the book still, but
maybe you go and overpay for a tight end because you want to go that route. Maybe you go and overpay for a wide receiver in free agency and let Rashee Rice walk.
But at some point, you had to make a sacrifice somewhere, and the Chiefs have shown time and time again they're going to make sacrifices at paying cornerbacks. They know that even if they spend first-round draft capital or high draft capital or a lot of resources, it won't be monetary resources. They're going to sink into the cornerback position. To an extent, you can make the case they haven't done that at wide receiver either. They haven't really signed what was Tyreek was on a second contract.
Yeah, but he was on a second contract. But we got to remember too. That was
depressed.
such a team-friendly deal because they signed him in that 2019 offseason. When all that stuff took place, they had an easy out. He also got guaranteed dollars.
Yeah.
Chiefs got a discount.
That's why I said
protected themselves. They didn't pay Tyreek when he wanted the $30 million per year.
Correct.
Over market what they felt. They were trying to at what they felt was at a number. So you're right. They were, if it wasn't for maybe Christian Kirk, then the Chiefs were.
It was Devontae Adams, I think.
Christian Kirk went to Jacksonville that then changed Devontae Adams,
which then changed
Tyreek Hill, because they were like, well, if he's getting 20, then we need to renegotiate or relook at what look again at what we were talking about, because those numbers they don't add up anymore. So we're going to go ahead and do this differently. So as that part of it, comes into play, it's a good point that they were trying to pay Tyreek Hill, so they were willing to do it. I think they were willing to pay Charvarius Ward. I don't think they were willing to pay L'Jarius Sneed because of the knee injury.
Agreed.
They were probably willing to pay Jalen Watson or Trent McDuffie. It's just too much.
Yeah.
They would have liked to pay Trent McDuffie. There's probably a number they could say, we can fit Trent McDuffie into the cap for this number. Okay, it's not going to come close to that. So let's see what we can get back in draft capital. We'd like to keep Jalen Watson on this team. Okay, but if we do, what do we lose in return? And can Noel Williams slide into that spot? And if we get a first rounder for Trent McDuffie, and we've already got the number 9 pick, well, we've got Noel Williams to fill Jalen Watson's spot. We don't have to pay the $40 million guaranteed that the Rams gave him. And if we go and get McCoy or Mansour Delane or Chris Johnson or one of the top corners, whoever we evaluate in the top 10, that is a guy that could be Trent McDuffie, and we draft him, we've saved a lot of money. We're in almost the same spot, and we still have another first-round draft pick to play with.
just along the lines of Tyreek real quick when it comes
Yeah.
to they don't pay corners and wide receivers. They don't really pay. Again, there's numbers. There's always an out somewhere, and
Yeah.
it feels like it's lower than other positions. It's why I think this is Rashee Rice's last year. If they were going to pay Rashee, they were probably going to do it. And maybe he said no.
Mm-hmm.
But the same thing with Tyreek. If you ever wanted to get a talented player at a discount, you do it when they're going through something. I know it seems silly. I know it's bad PR. I get all that stuff. It wasn't good PR for the Chiefs when they did with Tyreek Hill, right?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. But same thing with Rashee. If they were to resign him, but you know that is your chance to get probably a massive monetary discount on a player. Because if he stays out of trouble this year and he puts up 1,200 yards, he's not going to be a Chief. Some team will say, we'll overpay, we'll forget about it. It didn't happen here, so we're giving him a second chance. But it's a team that if he stays, the Kareem Hunt situation always makes me laugh to an extent. Because what was the conversation when the Browns signed him? They're giving Kareem Hunt a second chance. But if the Chiefs were to keep him, what happens now? How do you keep him on your team?
Yeah.
And we know it was some of the lying or maybe the not truthful situations that really broke that relationship apart. But I think the national perspective has always been that. If the Chiefs were to resign, again, when he went to Miami, no one brought up really the off-the-field stuff. They said, oh, Tyreek to Miami. But when they re-signed Tyreek Hill in Kansas City, what was the conversation? How can you resign this guy?
Yeah, and they did it, 2 days before the opening game in 2019 in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So they went through that entire offseason, went through training camp, went through preseason games, and then right there the first week of the season on like a Thursday or Friday, I can't remember which day it was, but it was like a Thursday or Friday of the first week of the season, and they announced the contract extension for Tyreek Hill. And it was a very team-friendly deal. But you're not getting that with Rashee Rice. I mean, the man went on IG Live and said that he wants JSN money. Okay, well, good luck. When that to me, that's the Chiefs going JK money.
Yeah.
JSN, yeah, JK, not happening. You're not getting JSN money because you ain't JSN, and you've got off the field stuff. You've been suspended for 6 games. Anything else is a multi-offender moving forward. There's always that in the back of the minds of anybody that's going to pay him. George Pickens hasn't been suspended, and the Cowboys don't want to give him a long-term deal.
Yeah.
And Pickens doesn't want to sign his deal because he wants to be traded. And the only leverage he has is to not sign his franchise tender and not show up to the mandatory stuff and the mandatory and involuntary, same thing.
Pickens for Rice. Who says no?
Right? I mean, come on, do that right now. Let's do it. And they can sign Rice to a long-term deal. Let's go. But I can't imagine Rice is on this team next year because no way the Chiefs want to pay that exorbitant amount of money for Rashee Rice. And if that's what he wants and somebody in the offseason is willing to pay him, then good God, congratulations, let them do it. I don't want to be the team that gives Rashee Rice a long-term deal, and I don't want to be the team that gives George Pickens a long-term deal. I mean, you're dealing with a guy that's having to earn the money in this first contract. Rashee Rice and Pickens getting to that level. Pickens a year earlier.
Yeah.
But Rashee Rice wanting all this money, and he's trying to earn it, and he's acting like this. No, thank you. Daniel Harms next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hang out with Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour. The draft is wrapped up. We'll hear from some of the rookies as they get ready for rookie minicamp coming up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll hear from these rookies at the podium on Friday. But right now, let's talk about the breakdown of the draft, the 7 players that the Chiefs acquired in the draft. Daniel Holmes, RGR Football, Bleacher Report, joining us here in the zone on a Wednesday. Daniel, what's up, brother? How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. It was a long week last week, but I'm definitely recovered from it now.
Yes. Hopefully you've got some sleep and you have not been a madman and said, all right, well, let me start on 2027 now. Give yourself some time, Daniel. Give yourself some time. Take a break, okay? Maybe a day or two, all right? And
I make no promises.
and then get back to it. What did you make of? Let's look at these sort of bigger picture, more shotgun view of that, and then hone in on some specific things. What did you take away as to what the Chiefs were able to accomplish over the weekend with their what ended up being 7 picks with the 4 defensive players and 3 offensive players?
Yeah, I thought that Brett Veach and everyone did a really good job of telling the media and other teams what they wanted to do and being completely wrong about it. Like just giving them the false information, doing a great job of bringing all the edge rushers in that they possibly could, giving the smokescreen a tackle, even wide receiver in the first round, and then just going the opposite way and getting the guy who was the top 5 player on their board in Mansour Lane. And even though it did take an extra, a 3rd-round pick, which would have been nice to have, I think. But at the end of the day, I think you can really look at the draft class as a whole and say that they did an excellent job of telling the team and the fans where they finally understand that they were lacking over the past couple of years with speed, aggressiveness, honestly, some natural instinctual play in the secondary. And that's really what they honed in on. And it was a really nice change of pace to see that from their draft.
I want to get into some of these specific picks, but I'm also curious of, in this town, it's fascinating because the Chiefs have been a dynasty and they've gone to all these Super Bowls and they've won 3 of them and they've got the best quarterback in the NFL and they've put together some pretty good teams. While, yes, Mahomes and Kelsey and Chris Jones have been big parts of that, but there's been a lot of turnover as well. Brett Veach seems to be an interesting maybe lightning rod is too strong of a term, but there is a pendulum one way or another where people either think like he's infallible or he might be the dumbest GM that ever lived in the history of GMs and he just doesn't understand how anything works in football. Those are the complete extremes. It is interesting, like from people outside of the area, to hear some of the disappointment and frustrations and dislike at times for the Chiefs general manager when, outside they're going, you've been to all these different Super Bowls, and yeah, Patrick Mahomes is a big part of it, but also the defense had to play well in certain aspects. How do you view Brett Veach? Is he closer to Howie Roseman, who has never made a mistake, or, the dumbest GM that ever lived?
Oh, that's always a fun go-between for GMs and topics. But here's what I'll say about Brett Veach. You should always judge everyone by what they accomplish. Yes, every GM is going to have misses. Every scouting department is going to have misses. I think most fans, if they hate him, think that he scouts every single player, and no matter what, if that player is a bust, it's on Brett Veach. This is a whole collective effort, like from top down, GM, coach, DC, offensive coordinator, scouting department. This is a collective effort from everybody. Yes, Brett Veach has the ultimate say in what the player's name that gets written down on the card, but he's not going into every single pick saying, I don't care what my scouting department says, I don't care what my head coach says, I don't care what my defensive coordinator says. I'm picking whoever I want and F everything else. That doesn't happen. So, like, this entire idea that Brett Veach is the sole responsible person for every failed pick, every first-round reach, every kind of problem there is all on him. I also say the inverse about the positive stuff isn't all because of Brett Veach.
Yeah.
It's as is everybody. It's somewhere in the middle. Yes, I think he's made some poor decisions with some of the contracts he's handed out over the years, with some of the picks that they've made, but it's a collective effort. The draft is not a 100% you're going to get it right every single time. And I think you can go back to 2022 and look at what they did and not only revamping the defense, but putting themselves on a crash course with 3 straight Super Bowls. You can put that square in his lap. You can put some of the contracts that didn't work out square in his lap. You can put some of the first-round picks that didn't work out square in his lap. Like, if you want to, you can make everything about Brett Veach, but we all know that the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick was influenced by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. There were opinions asked. It's not just Brett Veach making every single decision. So, yes, he's not infallible, but he's also not a guy who causes every problem that happens in Kansas City from the time he became GM to now. We just have to have a more nuanced conversation about how decisions actually get made.
Yeah, and I think some of it, too, is, we get frustrated in the moment or happy in the moment, sad in the moment, pissed in the moment, and maybe we don't remember those immediate reactions. I brought up on Friday, Daniel, after they had moved up to draft Mansour Delane, and I said, 2022 was such an interesting offseason because there were plenty of people that weren't happy about trading Tyreek Hill. And I talked about, I understand the strategy. I like the acquiring the assets. Now you got to go out and take advantage of those assets. The 76ers in the process, to me, was not flawed strategy. It was flawed implementation of the resources they had. The strategy of trading Tyreek Hill for picks and saving the salary cap money is not flawed strategy. How do you go and take advantage of the resources that you acquired? And then fast forward to the draft, Daniel, and they move up from pick 29 to 21 for Trent McDuffie. But when they moved up, I remember collectively on Twitter, here's Jermaine Johnson. They moved up to go get the defensive end they need. They got it. You need a pass rusher to go along with Chris Jones. Heck yeah. They move up and they take Trent McDuffie, who nobody was talking about with the Chiefs, and it was like, what the hell are they doing? They can find cornerbacks anywhere. Why are they doing this? And now looking back, thank God they didn't trade up for Jermaine Johnson, that they traded up for Trent McDuffie. And so allocating those resources, and again, to your point, he doesn't make all of the decisions that are correct. He doesn't make all of the decisions that are wrong. It's also a holistic collective group that's doing those things. But I think sometimes at the time we can be frustrated of, well, I thought they were going to go defensive end and he didn't do that. They should have gone this route and he didn't do that. Let me point out the real bad misses that they had. They took Sky Moore instead of George Pickens, and they took Brian Cook instead of James Cook. Okay, they also took a number of guys in 2022 over some other guys that were lesser than. I think there's an element of they traded up for Mansour Delane, and it wasn't Ruben Bain because we had all sort of, myself included, kind of talked ourselves into how awesome it would be to put Bain as a defensive end on this team.
Yeah, and I think that when we look at the process, how long it is for fans, specifically, we're all doing mock drafts. We're all doing, we're all creating content outside of where we think the Chiefs need help. And a lot of it, this is actually going back to the draft, the beginning talks, where I was like, look, this is a really, really good corner class. There's a lot of guys at the top. But that idea got dismissed very, very quickly by the fan base because of they don't need to do this because they've developed guys so well that they've been able to do it. And I was adamant that it's okay that they can do that, but why would you want to hamstring your staff with guys that are, yes, lesser talented they can get the most out of, but if you look at giving them a real talent like Trent McDuffie, what can you do with those things? So in the grand scheme, you guys heard me last week. I thought it was going to be Ruben Bain too. We all expected it, I guess, to an extent, to be Ruben Bain. But if you take kind of peel back and look at the pick itself, Brett Veach, the staff, the scouting department had Mansour Delane as a top 5 player in the class. Top 5. Yeah. Okay. On their board, he was a top 5 player. In that dynamic, this makes the most sense in the world in a quote-unquote down year in the draft. Everyone wants to parrot the same thing. This is a bad draft. This is a bad draft. This is a bad draft. Well, if it's a bad draft and you have a blue-chip prospect that is available to you and you can go get him, go get him. Go get the job done and go put a player that is going to insert into your defense be a lockdown player on the outside, and you can set it and forget it. No, too much to go do it. Okay, well, then what do you want?
Yeah.
You want them to make players that you want them to draft, not based on their board that they have a blue chip prospect grade on. So we have to have yes, and then that's what I think, even for me, I would have personally drafted Ruben Bain myself. However, I'm not a GM. My job does not require me to hit these picks, and I am more comfortable putting, let's see, how historical outlier in arm length is something I don't have to worry about. My job is not dependent on historical outliers at arm length. If you go and draft Ruben Bain and he fails as a top 5 pick, say you trade up to go get him at 6, and he fails because he can't physically get it done, then that's part of your job, is that your coach, your DC, and your owner comes to you and says, why did you draft this player? And then you have to explain why. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm still betting he's going to be an excellent NFL player in Ruben Bain. But when you go through the process and you realize that Delane was one of the top 5 players on their board, they had a spot with the Cleveland Browns. They also had information that, after you look at what the Saints did after the draft and bringing in Martin Emerson, seems pretty clear that Delane could have very easily been the pick at 8.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you have a chance to go up 6 to get the guy that you have in front of everyone else, the top 5 grade on. You do it, and then you set it and forget it. So I'm totally okay with the process.
It's a really good point about, hey, this is a down draft. Okay, well, you've got a blue chip here, and you're a 3rd rounder away from moving up to get a blue chip in a draft where you don't feel like there are many, and you hope you're never in that position again. That's the time to maybe strike while you have that chance. You've studied cornerbacks and film study and ranking and things like that. Albert Breer had a small little, anecdote in his Monday Morning Quarterback in a bigger sort of talk about the trade, but it was once they saw Mansour Delane run the 4.3 at his pro day, it solidified in their mind he's one of the best cornerback prospects in the last decade. Are you on board with that really high praise of the Chiefs saying we're going to move up to get him because we don't just think he's the best cornerback in this draft. We think once he showed the top end speed with everything else he offers, he's one of the best cornerbacks we've seen in the last decade.
I always think that that's a slippery slope, specifically because, one, he's never played down in the NFL. Okay. And also you have 1 year of, again, I'm a huge Delane fan, but he went from Virginia Tech, where he had a bad year in 2024. Maybe that's because, injury, the scheme that he was playing in. Virginia Tech's just not very good. He was having to put a ton of hats on. That's very true, very possible. He had 1 year of elite level production at the LSU level, and where else did it come from? That's a reasonable question to ask. Yeah. But also, how much actual? I find it very difficult to believe that a coaching staff, a front office, watched a Pro Day 40 and that solidified in their mind, because that is the slipperiest of slippery slopes.
Yeah, good point.
We all know that 40 times don't always translate to the field, and we see it day in and day out when we're scouting. So that quote, to me, I'm going to go ahead and say that is not true. I'm going to go ahead and say that because I know they did the work. If he was already in their mind one of the best corner prospects that have come out in the decade, it happened before he ran that 40. Because you watch what he does on the field, where he wins as a physical presence. And it's not, everyone thinks he's just like this man coverage guy on the outside. He's going to lock down big receivers. He's man match. He's zone match. He's got excellent eyes. He can stay on top of routes. He looks to get his head around when the ball is in the air. He reads the receivers well, but he also understands route concepts. He can be in that off coverage where you don't see him freak out because he's got to carry this receiver to the safety and then transition downhill for maybe an in route, a 5-yard in route that's coming underneath. He can see all of those. He can see the drags coming across. He does everything. So I'm probably not going to say that he's one of the best corners to come out in the last decade, but he is a damn good prospect, and I'm fully on board with believing that part. I refuse to believe that they made that proclamation when he ran the 40-yard dash.
Let's go check him out at his pro day. We're taking Jordan Tyson. We're in love with Jordan Tyson or Caleb Downs. 4-3. Oh, my God, Mansour Delane, let's trade up for him. I didn't know he had that in his bag. Well, let's do it. I don't care what the tape shows. We were Tyson all the way. Now we're Delane. Daniel Harms is our guest. After the first round, David Carr said something, and I've been wanting to ask you about it since he said that. He was talking about the Chiefs trading up to get Mansour Delane. He was actually asked which team with 2 draft picks on Thursday night impressed you the most, and he chose the Chiefs. And he was talking about corner over edge, where people thought edge, maybe it was Reuben Bain, but you see he went 15th, and the next, defensive end that was drafted went in the 20s, and Malachi Lawrence, so it wasn't like a deeper draft after, Bailey and Reese. But what he said, as a quarterback, I'd much rather have to deal with the stud defensive end than a guy that's just going to shut down a side of the field or my best receiver that we've game planned with as a quarterback. It just makes it so much more difficult if I know there's a guy over there that I can't throw that way. What do you make of that comment from David Carr? I know it's different if we heard it from Tom Brady as opposed to David Carr. But that stood out to me because I feel like we always talk about with quarterbacks that, oh, man, you get to them fast and happy feet, I got to release the ball. His point was, yeah, that's fine, but I can't throw it that way.
I'm not a quarterback. I don't know how much of that really impacts it. I think they both do it a lot. We talk about this on the defensive side of the ball all the time. It's great if you can get to the quarterback quickly, right? You can force them to throw the football before they want to, maybe throw into coverage, or you find a way to get an interception that way. But we also understand that if you can lock down receivers for a little bit longer, you give your pass rush more time to get after the quarterback. It is a give and take world. It's not just, you have this one guy on the defensive side that's a problem and everyone else is fine. You're like, yeah, that's a bit, I'm going to throw away from him. That's what happens in college football. Like that, no one threw after Clemson and LSU played in the opening week, and Mansour Delane said, yeah, you want to throw the ball in my way? Go for it and see what happens. And quarterback said, yeah, I'm going to throw where everyone else is. Yeah. Like, I don't want to throw it to him. So that actually does have a little bit, I think, more weight in college football. NFL quarterbacks are not out there and throwing away from someone unless your name, is Darrelle Revis in his prime. That probably, but he still got targeted. Like those things still happen. So I'm far less of the opinion that one guy dramatically changes the way a quarterback is going to operate. It all works together in unison. If you can get after the quarterback a little faster, you then put your corners at a better opportunity to drive down on the football. But if you are covering in the back end a little bit longer, then you give your defensive ends and your defense tackles more time to get after the quarterback. So it all just kind of works in unison. I'm not sure if that's a really hugely true statement from Carr himself. But again, I'm not a quarterback, so I don't know.
Well, and also, I can't throw that way. But if I've got 4 seconds to find out where I can throw, I can find, some openings at different places. Whereas, hey, I can throw over here, but I just didn't have time to do that. I got to get rid of the football early on. And so, and like you're talking about with Mansour Delane, I told the story on Friday, Daniel, that after they took Delane, my son, was wanting to watch all the highlights. Like, I want to see more highlights because we watched the ESPN ones and we watched the NFL Network ones. And then we went to YouTube to look at the highlights. And my son goes, they're all the same plays. I said, well, buddy, that's actually a good thing for a cornerback because those are the only ones they had to show. Thought that was funny. Daniel Harms is our guest. What do you make of then Peter Woods and R. Mason Thomas, the next 2 picks, pick 29 and pick 40? If we're saying all of this, works together, you get a shutdown corner. Hopefully you get a defensive tackle that you're hoping can play more of the flashes, and you get a guy that has experience and success at rushing the passer. What do you think of pick 29 and 40 for the Chiefs?
I thought that Peter Woods was someone that the Chiefs would be targeting earlier in the draft process. As it got further on, I just felt like they had a defense tackle wasn't necessarily a real true need in the first couple of rounds. I thought edge was going to be. We talked about that ad nauseum, but it's hard to pass up a player at 29 in Peter Woods who has the athletic profile, the ability to rush the passer the way he does, and I think that he learned a lot last year. As much as he didn't have the great statistical success, when he was playing more one tech at Clemson, he had to learn how to eat blocks a little bit better because he's a little bit smaller in terms of he's 6'2", came in at 6'2", 298 pounds. I think he weighed in a little bit heavier at his pro day, which again, I'm expecting him to play over 300 pounds in the NFL, especially if you're going to move it around. But he's got real true positional versatility to play and rush from 0 all the way out to a 5-7 tech on the edges of the offensive line against the tackles. But he's going to make his money at 3 tech being that Chris Jones breather guy. When Chris Jones comes off the field, offenses are like, hell yeah. Yep. Let me go ahead and just spread it out. We throw the ball. We're not going to have to worry about Chris Jones coming after us, and then we can mitigate the pass rush on the outside. Well, if you're going to bring Peter Woods in when Chris Jones isn't on the field, you have to think about that a little bit more. He's got more athletic ability, and his footwork is absolutely fantastic. One of the things you see on film all the time is when he's playing either against the run or he's using leverage against an offensive lineman, he can put his foot in the ground, shove them aside, and he's immediately right there. He does it so quickly and fast hands with good footwork and leverage. Like, he does an excellent job of reading that and getting in gaps and with against the run, and then transitioning from run defense to pass rush. You see it with play action passes and RPOs and things like that. I saw Seth Kaiser tweeting about this, and as I was watching Peter Woods tape, I'm like, this is absolutely true. About how often have you seen Chiefs rushers when it goes from a play action pass, like it's run first and then it's pass rush? How many of them win?
Yeah.
The answer is one. It's Chris Jones, and that's it. Everyone else doesn't do it. So you have another person that can do that coming into Kansas City. Yes, it's always weird to see a player have a great 2024, not have a good 2025, and then you're just kind of betting on the upside of that player. But I will say that Clemson has not been the vision of success, specifically at developing players and figuring out how to use them properly over the past couple of seasons.
And even more than that, like Dexter Lawrence was amazing his sophomore year, then he regressed his junior year, and it's like, okay, well, he was going to be a top 5, top 10 pick, and then he went late teens, and now he's Dexter Lawrence. So, I mean, like, if you knew he was going to be that guy. What did you make of R. Mason Thomas? What do you think of the question around him has been, quote-unquote, fit, but, Mike Bradway wanted to make sure on Friday night that people knew that, no, Spags signed off on this. Spags is just as excited about this guy as others. How true do you think that is, and what do you think of the player?
I want to make one real quick thing about this selection, of at least what I believe, what we've talked about in RGR football, is that the Chiefs, having missed the playoffs, had more time to actually self-scout. I think that was huge in this process of drafting Peter Woods and then R. Mason Thomas, because they were able to look at the pass rush. And they were able to look at the players that they rotated in and out of there. A lot of the same styles, a lot of the same ways you win with power, not necessarily with your hands. One thing, or quickness for that matter, one thing that you're going to see with R. Mason Thomas is, yes, he's got short arms. That doesn't really matter. He's very quick. He uses his hands well. And I think that his change of direction skills, on top of being a sudden mover with speed to power transition, gives him an easy transition to being able to at least start off as more of maybe a designated pass rusher or, those longer down situations. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's outside of the realm of possibilities of being a rotational player on run downs either. I think that he's got a good ability to have that non-stop motor. One of the things that you do see with him is that he's always working. He's working his hands. He's working the moves that he's going through. And I really think that he's got good upper body strength for a guy who's getting quote-unquote shorter arms and not as heavy coming in. I have his weight in front of me, 249 pounds, 6'2", 249 pounds. Not exactly the Spags type of defensive end we've seen over the past years.
Well, and and I think that's where people have had their questions about how he's going to be utilized. And do you have questions about that, or is that what your point was in, more time to self-scout, that, Spags is signing off on this because maybe he's also recognizing that just simply the prototypical archetype is not working right now?
I think that's exactly what it is. I think that I'm not going to make excuses for a coaching staff coming off of 3 consecutive Super Bowl trips. I'm just not going to do that because, you get to 3, you're doing something right. But at the same time, we have to look in the mirror and say, how often do teams use those months, a month and a half, to be able to actually self-scout and prep? A lot of times when you're going from the Super Bowl, you're going right into cramming for the combine. Yeah. You don't get time to self-scout. You're cramming so you can learn all these players' names because you have to now get caught up. You don't have time to sit back and say, hey, what were we really good at last year, and where can we improve? That typically gets thrown by the wayside because you have to prepare. So I'm not going to make excuses for him, but it does feel like specifically with the plays and then on 3rd and long this last year, it was atrociously bad how many times they gave up 3rd and long because they just didn't have the guys they could get after the quarterback or actually make them throw the ball before they wanted to. So I think R. Mason Thomas is a very targeted pick to say we don't have juice. We need more juice at defensive end.
I've said this term a number of times, and it'll probably get annoying to people over the course of this offseason, but for the last few weeks when I've been talking about R. Mason Thomas or Cassius Howe, maybe even more specifically Cassius Howe because of the local guy, that, okay, this is not a prototypical Spags guy. He's a pass rush only. He's D Ford. He's Uche. They don't like those guys. But my point was, you're not going to go out and pay $35-40 million for a 3-down defensive lineman that's going to stop the run on 1st and 2nd down and then be a speed rusher and speed to power and all that stuff on 3rd down. They don't have the flexibility there. But the term I've used for a number of weeks now is I'd like to see the Chiefs at least to attempt to build it in the aggregate, that if you say Gelati can be an early down run stopper and then R. Mason Thomas comes out there, well, now you've picked in the 3rd round and the 40th pick in the draft, you've combined those to what could be a pretty legit 3-down defensive end of stopping the run and then a guy that can get after the passer, not in the same player, but the skill sets combined in doing that. That's what I was hoping maybe they would go about, whether it's Cassius Howe or R. Mason Thomas, and not just looking at, well, he's not a 3-down lineman. Okay, yeah, you need pass rush. You need somebody to get to the quarterback. And I love Zion, like, the Missouri side of it, and I love the attitude he brings to the table, and I think they've been missing that from Frank Clark, what he brought to the table for a while. But he's more stop the run, and then, he'll get better at rushing the passer. T.J. Parker, stop the run, maybe get better at rushing the passer. R. Mason Thomas is just like, let me get to the quarterback. And I wanted that. They needed that.
It's been such a drastic thing that we've all talked about outside of Chris Jones. Who's getting to the quarterback quickly? Nobody. There is nobody that can do it. So you had to bring somebody in that can do that. And at the very least, if we're talking about a 2nd-round pick who can get after the quarterback and help out everybody else right away, that is something you absolutely should take the time to do.
Yep. Daniel Holmes is our guest. Last one for you. What was your favorite draft pick of the 7?
This is going to be a good one because most people probably wouldn't expect me to pick a 4th rounder, but it's Jaden Kennedy out of Oregon.
Okay.
It's my favorite pick, not just because of vibes, but because I think he's actually going to bring to the defense.
I like the vibes part of it too.
Yeah.
Is he plug and play slot that what they got? It's better twofold. Connor doesn't have to play slot, thank goodness, and he can slide in and play slot at a good level.
Yeah, I'm trying to hold back my saying he's going to be the day 1 starter because I know how Spags is with Shamari Connor.
Yep.
I think it's going to be maybe a couple of weeks, but it's going to be too obvious to pass up on. He played corner, he played safety, he played nickel. He's going to be a nickel in the NFL. He's about 5'10", 181 pounds, but he's the guy you want to have as a nickel. And I think that the reason he's my favorite pick is because everything else now makes sense. You don't have to put Shamari Connor at nickel. You don't have to try to find different ways to get people on the field. Like, we're going to take this corner here. You might go into nickel on 3rd down. We'll see. But no, here. Hey, Jaden, go play nickel. Shamari, go play safety.
Yes.
Hey, Mansour, go play corner. We don't have to worry about all this. You all have your roles, and I think that he's the one guy you slot into this defense, and then everyone's role stays the same, and then we're fine.
Yep, I'm excited about that one as well, just from that particular reason that maybe you get better at 2 spots, moving Shamari Connor back somewhere else and then taking him out of that slot position. Daniel Harms, RGR Football Bleacher Report. Daniel, you're the man. You have put so much work into the draft, and I hope you were able to sit back and enjoy it. And we'll see, obviously, over the next months and then years of what this draft means for the Chiefs. That is this a 2022 draft, or is this one where you lament and go, man, you had missed opportunities and that could have really set you up for a number of Super Bowls ahead of you? But I, for one, am pretty excited about what they were able to accomplish in this draft. And I love the fact that you were here with us along the way through the draft process.
It was such a fun experience getting to do this every single week with you guys during the draft. And yes, I did get to enjoy it. You know, we had live streams both first and second day on RGR football, but that's the fun part, right? We get to just sit back, watch guys get selected, celebrate, maybe kind of turn our heads a little bit about some of the picks that were made, but overall it's a fantastic experience, and I couldn't have asked for a better, weekly guest spot here with you guys talking football every single week.
Well, we couldn't either, man. We appreciate it as always, brother. We'll catch up with you from time to time as well during the off season, so you won't be a stranger for us. I know that.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much, and I look forward to it again.
Great stuff. Daniel, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's Daniel Holmes in harm's way, RGR Football Bleacher Report. Man, he's so good. I love talking with him, and we've had a blast breaking down the draft week by week in all the different ways of, the different players we were talking about in edge and wide receiver, or the absurdity of offensive tackle. And heck, we didn't even get into that with him, with Brett Veach laughing about, just let people think we were going to go offensive line at that spot. But his favorite pick was Jadon Kennedy. And I like it because we've heard a few other different names, like, oh, my favorite pick is, Peter Woods. My favorite pick is Jadon Kennedy. My favorite pick is R. Mason Thomas. My favorite, or not Kennedy, but Cyrus Allen. And then he comes in and says, favorite pick is Jadon Kennedy. I love that. Favorite pick is Mansour Delane. Okay, great. It could be. Like, I mean, your favorite pick could be a guy that ends up being, an all-pro. That's great. Favorite pick is Nussmeier because, you're going to flip him for a fourth rounder in a couple of years.
Kennedy might be the most Chiefs pick of, he's just going to be good. He's just, we know he's going to be good.
Hopefully, just put him out there and let him play the slot, call it a day, and Cater Co, who can add depth to that position as well, and move Shamari Connor and Christian Roland Wallace out of that spot and have them play more of their traditional roles as well. But yeah, so certainly appreciate Daniel joining us and that conversation about Mansour Delane. And then the R. Mason Thomas one, I think, is really interesting. What he said there is we've talked about it from the offensive side of self-scouting, and maybe they can recalibrate the offense, the term that I've been using, recalibrate the offense, and they've had more time to self-scout because they didn't make the playoffs. That his point being, well, they've had more time to self-scout on defense too. And maybe in self-scouting on defense, maybe Spags had a come-to-Jesus moment of, yeah, I like this particular part or size defensive end used in a certain way, but by doing that, we've had no juice at the defensive line. We need to address that. Find some defensive linemen that offer juice, quickness, and defensive end that maybe isn't, oh, he's built like Myles Garrett. Okay, great. He, plays not like, he plays like Inches Garrett, not Miles. All right? He doesn't play that way. Cool.
Feet Garrett,
whatever it is.
Kilometers Garrett.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. Yeah, that's Kilometers Garrett, not Miles Garrett.
There we go. We got there.
He plays that football very well. But we'll see what our Mason Thomas looks like, and we will be able to judge him directly against Cassius Howell, very next pick, and against Zion Young, that went a few picks later as well. Like you've got, and by the way, Cassius Howell, I don't blame him. Not very happy with the Chiefs, and
that's hard.
It's tough. You grew up a Chiefs fan and said, well, you know what? They did take a defensive end and they passed on me, so I don't really care about it. I don't want to be a Kansas City Chief. I'm excited to be a Cincinnati Bengal, and I can't wait till we see him. Okay. Well, good for you, man. Have that chip on your shoulder. I hope that works out for him because I want him to be successful.
110% too?
I hope he gives 110%, okay, against the Chiefs, all right? We'll see. As long as he doesn't call it Burrowhead, I think we'll be fine. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and I want to talk about one of the players that we didn't get into a conversation with there. I planned on talking about it with Daniel, but the conversations I love with him is because we end up talking about so many different things. Cyrus Allen, the pick in the 5th round. The excitement and the tempered of excitement all combined in one, and I'll explain where the excitement comes from and also why there's also a tempering of said excitement. We'll do that next. All right, again, thank you to Daniel Holmes joining us, breaking down the Kansas City Chiefs and the overall draft. And we'll find out a little bit more as time goes on. And rookie minicamp coming up this weekend. We'll hear from some of those rookies at the podium on Friday and in town putting on Chiefs jerseys and a helmet for the first time and realizing that part of their dream. One, you get drafted or brought in for a camp. Two, then you're out there on the practice field wearing an NFL jersey and wearing an NFL helmet. Maybe that helmet has some tape across the front that has a name on it because they don't know who you are. But still, at least you've got that opportunity. We didn't talk about Cyrus Allen with Daniel Holmes, and I wanted to talk about him here for just a little bit. There's excitement around him as a selection. And certainly, I've got my excitement about what he can bring to the table that I talked about on Monday, and that is, I haven't seen a Chiefs player, wide receiver, that was just phenomenal route runner. Just go and beat man coverage. Go and beat press. Go and beat man. Go and beat zone. Figure out how to play the wide receiver position and get open. He wins contested catches, this guy does. Yeah, he has to because he's not open. This guy creates separation. He's one of the best separators in the entire draft. He beats man-to-man. He's got the feel for the zone, which is great, especially from 10 to 2. But he's got a feel for even when a quarterback is moving in the pocket to also stay in that weak part of the zone for a little bit longer. Matt Harmon that does reception perception, that is just his entire, NFL analysis is all about wide receivers. He does the route trees and everything at reception perception. Matt Harmon before the draft said, not the best player, but he said, my favorite prospect in this draft is Cyrus Allen. And it was the reason of he has 13 touchdowns. He's not invited to the combine. He defeats every single type of coverage, but is underlooked, and people are talking about his teammate, Jeff Caldwell. And this is before the draft. Did Cyrus Allen 1 year at Cincinnati this last year. So it's a limited sample size as compared to Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson and things like that. 75% success rate versus man coverage last year, which was the third best in the entire draft crop, behind number 1 Casey Concepcion and number 2 Carnell Tate. He had the second highest success rate versus zone at 83.7, behind only Jordan Tyson. So you've got a guy in the 5th round that the third best success rate versus man in separating, only 2 first-round picks, one that was the number 4 overall pick in Carnell Tate and another one that went in the first round in Casey Concepcion, and then against zone, separating and keeping that area clean, even with scrambling quarterbacks of as the zone would move around, he would slide around to keep that space. Second best only behind Jordan Tyson. That also went in the top 10. But here's where I temper that. One, if he was that good, why was he still there in the 5th? And two, I remember a year ago I was saying, I can't believe Jalen Royals was in the 4th round.
Yeah.
That guy was like a 2nd round pick. And by the way, Matt Harmon at Reception Perception said that Cyrus Allen is a late 3rd round pick. This was before the draft. Said, my favorite prospect because of all these different things. I've got him as a day 2 guy that could go late day 2. That's probably where he goes because you don't have the extended sample size that the other receivers do. For the success rates, if it was 2 years success rate, well, then we're not talking about late 3rd round. It's 1 year. And we'll see how that's going to translate in the NFL. He's not a 4.3 guy. He's not a guy that's going to be, running a 4.25. He's got fast enough speed. He can, he's not Keon Coleman either, But a year ago, Sterling, I was pretty excited about Jalen Royals being in the 4th round because he was somebody that I thought the Chiefs might get in the 2nd or the 3rd. And, hey, do they have to trade up to get him? And he's there in the 4th round. I'm like, dude, they got a steal in this guy, in Jalen Royals. I was pumped for him. And he clearly was not good enough last year.
Yeah.
Because even when they had to have guys play, he still wasn't really seeing the field. You know, it's different when it was like, oh, you're not playing Noel Williams. And then he has to play, and you play Noel Williams.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, but he wasn't playing before that. Right, and then when guys got hurt and he got in there, he played. Jalen Royals, even when they were out of it, was still not playing that much.
And neither was Bossa, really.
Right, exactly. So, like, and those were guys I was pumped about, 4th and 5th round picks. Like, you got those guys late. So I temper my enthusiasm there, but those that cover receivers and follow it and talk about it, and guys whose entire analysis as a professional when it comes to the NFL and draft scouting is simply wide receivers, is saying a number of these things that, you know, he shouldn't have been there in the 5th round. I get excited about it as to what he can offer. But history also tells us that's not just an easy, well, now he goes to the Chiefs and he's going to play a lot and he's going to be really good, because Jalen Royals didn't do that.
Luckily, new wide receiver coach, which is exciting.
Good point.
Again, I have a hard time seeing where he gets on the field. And again,
it seems like he's only slot.
If he's
much.
And that's what I've heard. And if he's only slot, Royals seem to be that.
Yeah, I mean, if Rice plays outside and you've got more of Worthy being a Z.
Well, then
then you've got a spot for him to be.
It'd be Allen or Royals in the slot, because Tyquan's outside.
Yeah.
So there's a chance, I guess. It just seems like a long shot. But again, I like the flyer in the 5th. I like this as a future move. If it's a redshirt year like Royals was last year, and they say, hey, we just need you to develop some. Okay, I can see that. So yeah, I have no issue, because the only other guy I think around this area that you would say you would have, if you're looking wide receivers, Kevin Coleman.
Right. Matt Derrick this morning talked about it. And
but that's
said, Kevin Coleman.
Very similar player.
Yeah.
Where it'd be slot as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're choosing between an outside guy and then a slot only guy. No, your two wide receiver prospects were really slot predominant. So I don't have an issue there with taking the Cyrus Allen flyer. And then you also got Caldwell, who is a UDFA, who I think a lot of people thought, hey, maybe even if you took him in the 5th, you'd be excited. I think the only reason why I have tempered expectations is not because I don't think Allen's a good player, but because he's probably slot only. In this particular 2026 season, there's not a lot of snaps to go around there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And, but again, he's a 5th rounder. If he was taken in the 2nd round at pick 40, I'd be like, well, he's got to be on the field right away.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice, you take him, he's got to play.
If he redshirts, I'm totally fine with him being again, quote unquote, and again, maybe injuries happen. It's football. Maybe he gets an opportunity because of that. But
if he redshirts, then Jalen Royals has to be a guy that plays this year, because he was allowed to redshirt last year as a 4th rounder. So if Jalen Royals essentially redshirted last year, he should be ready to go this year, which then, is Cyrus Allen going to redshirt? And then you'd have 2 years worth of draft picks in a 4th round and a 5th rounder in wide receivers, that when we talk about volume and throwing numbers at something, hopefully one of them turns out to be DeMarcus Robinson type player.
Sure.
I know that's not a big name when we talk about good receivers, but that dude was for the role he needed to fill and what he did, and now you see him with the Rams, and good God, how great would it have been to have DeMarcus Robinson on the Chiefs last year as a wide receiver. Because he wasn't Sammy or Tyreek or even, McCole at times, DeMarcus Robinson was... He sucks, or he's not good, or we joked about him running backwards at times, which was true. He needed to stop going.
Great blocker, though. Does the little thing. Justin Watson, to an extent, too.
Yeah, but DeMarcus Robinson was better than Justin Watson. So if one of these guys ends up being a career impact of not the same exact player, but someone that you look at on the field, starts, runs certain routes, does his job, and you got a 4th rounder and a 5th rounder, and combined one of those ends up being that, then hey, you're fine with mid-round picks. It could be worse. You could be the Rams that take mid-round running backs every single year and get nothing out of them.
Yeah.
You could be that. Kyron, they maximize that, or not Rams, 49ers, Jesus. The 49ers every year, Lynch and Shanahan, they take mid-round running backs every year, and they they produce nothing.
Well, they all get injured.
I mean, but they ultimately produce nothing. Like you've had McCaffrey, and then you got to go and bring in a Brian Robinson
and Trey Sermon, and Trey Sermon was, I think, a second rounder.
But I mean, like it's what they do, and they continue to miss on those guys. And Lynch is viewed as a better GM by some than Brett Veach.
No, I don't think many think that.
I think you'd be dumb if you did, but I think there's some people out there that'd be like, oh no, John Lynch is look what he's done with San Francisco, and he's been able to do that without Patrick Mahomes. Okay, we'll see. I mean, they took Kalen Black in the 3rd round. Great, we'll see how that works out. They took Jordan James last year in the 5th round. They took Isaac Garindo in 2024 in the 4th round.
He was good besides injury.
Yeah, so that's part of it. They took Tyrion Davis-Price in the 3rd round. They took Trey Sermon in the 3rd round. Like, there's a lot of running backs in 3rd, 4th, and 5th round that don't do anything.
Yeah,
that can even if you combine their career stats, have done nothing in San Francisco. So you could be throwing numbers at that position over and over and get zeros out of it and just wasting draft picks. Whereas the Chiefs didn't waste a draft pick on McCole Hardman. They didn't waste a draft pick on Rashee Rice. They didn't waste a draft pick on Xavier Worthy. I know those are not mid-rounders, but they didn't waste a draft pick on DeMarcus Robinson. Sky Moore sucked. All right, in Kansas City, it didn't work out. That wasn't a great one. But what you don't want to see is Jalen Royals didn't work out. Cyrus Allen didn't work out. 2027 draft, they took a 4th round wide receiver, and that didn't work out. Cornell Powell didn't really work out. You know, one of these guys needs to step up and play to a level representative of the amount of numbers you've thrown at that spot. Not necessarily, well, he's got to be really good because he's a 4th rounder. Well, you can't expect him to be good. He's a 4th or 5th rounder. Okay, right. But if you've thrown a number of 4th and 5th round draft picks at that position, one of them has to turn out to be a decent player that plays for 4 years. Like, you know what? That was a hell of a pick.
We're not asking him to be a star. We're
not asking him to be Puka in the 5th round.
You're saying, can you be a wide receiver 3? It's basically what you're asking, a legitimate wide receiver 3.
And now Cyrus Allen and Jalen Royals, I really don't care which one.
Yeah.
But if one of them turns out to be, you know what? That was a heck of a pick in the 4th/5th round that you got 3 or 4 years out of, and you didn't have to pay a whole lot of money for that, and he got you value and did what he needed to do, and Mahomes, you know, liked him, and like Mahomes liked DeMarcus Robinson and stuff. Like, that needs to happen with one of these picks, because Powell, it didn't happen. He didn't make the opening day 53-man roster his rookie year.
It keeps you from having to pay Justin Watson, from Hollywood Brown, from Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe Tyquan Thornton. I mean, that's what it comes down. Then you're saving money in those regards, but because they've not hit on these rookie wide receivers, a lot of times, you're forced to try and talk yourself into why it's a good idea to give $10 million to an injured Hollywood Brown.
Yes, that's exactly right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, quick math here. As we're comparing it to, those mid-round wide receivers and the 49ers in their mid-round running backs, an inability to find one consistent with them, 2 third-rounders, a 4th-rounder, and a 5th-rounder for the 49ers and John Lynch. Those 4 draft picks at running back combined for 261 carries for 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns in their career. So better than what the mid-round picks wide receivers have done for the Kansas City Chiefs with Brett Veach, but it's also throwing numbers to try to find running back, and
that changes now.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, the heavy lifting from that was Isaac Guerrero.
Yeah.
Last couple of years and having 420 of those yards and all 4 of the touchdowns. Isaac Guerrero. Mick Schaefer next.
Twitter thinks he's funny.
Shame on you nerds.
His wife and kids think he's lame.
No!
We couldn't get Paul, so we're stuck with Mick.
Yep. Okay, still got it going on.
Mick Schaefer on the Zone with Jason Anderson.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy.
Confirmation going to church today, Sterling?
Mick Schaefer with us talking to Sterling Holmes.
Sunday's best.
You do have a nice little Easter look for you.
Yeah.
You getting ready for the Derby on Saturday there?
I'm just wearing a nice sweater with a polo underneath.
Yes,
little
on
polka
the
dot
radio.
polo.
Yes, that's what
Well,
we're asking.
I have men's league starts tonight. Golf.
You dress like that to golf?
Oh, well, it's going to be a little chilly tonight, so I'm going to...
But yeah,
So you'd obviously wear shorts.
That's a sweater you wear to Sunday dinner.
That's exactly right. You're going to brunch on Sunday
Yeah,
with
you're
some,
going to get
with
some
some
grass
friends.
stains on that. I'm worried about that sweater.
Am I rolling in the grass?
You
No,
might.
but you're walking through it for
Yeah.
a couple hours.
There might be some mud on the backswing.
But you never get dirty at all playing golf.
I do.
right?
My
It's
shorts
been
wear.
raining out,
only
man.
when he cheats.
What if you finally take a divot and it pops up on that shirt?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, dude, I'll
You're in
pick
the
it-
sand.
I'll pick it clean.
Oh, you and Tiger. You're a pick it clean, huh? That's what they say.
No,
To be a good golfer, you don't take divots.
Sorry that I wanted to look
You don't have to
good.
apologize. We're worried about your wardrobe.
Yeah.
Fine, then I'll throw a vest on instead.
And by the way, you're saying it's chilly. Stand up. You have 5-inch shorts on.
well, yeah.
You have 5-inch shorts on.
I want my legs to have the ability to be free, so I can have my hip turn, and then up top.
Wait, your hips are still covered, buddy.
Yeah, a little
They're
bit.
still no, they're completely
My
covered.
knees,
I don't know how
though.
bodies work and shorts work.
I don't know where my
and
hip
pants
is.
and everything.
I'm still learning. I don't know. I just know it's connected to
leg
somewhere.
We're just looking around the room, Brick, and
Connected to the stomach bone.
I personally like wearing shorts and like a long sleeve. I think that's a nice look. It's the area of
you're about to look.
well, a little bit
Yeah,
too, because
okay.
like when you wear pants, you want to wear like sometimes like a short sleeve up top, or if you go tight with one and loose with the other garment. Like that's just how your eyes aesthetically will go.
So, men's league, you're worried about how the guys are seeing you.
Oh, there's the cart ladies. Come on, Mick.
They're cart ladies out there, not cart girls.
I was trying to be respectful. I don't the cart women. Okay, they're cart women.
Yeah. Cart girls is for the putt-putt.
Yeah.
That's for.
The course I play, we call them cart chicks. It's just not as nice as
No,
where you
it's
play.
just
It's better than cart broads. That
Yeah,
used
cart
to.
broads,
I mean, you've grown up
that's
over
why,
the years.
yeah, I guess.
Cart
Good for you.
gentlewomen is where they're classy in this place.
I grew up
well,
on
they probably
sand
are.
greens. They were called imaginary girls back then that would show up.
And they never showed.
Never showed.
Never showed.
I bet they love
Well,
that.
I- imagination.
But it's a good outfit, though. I feel like.
Yeah,
you even have the
exactly.
American
You're
flag
just not
belt to
yeah,
tie
you're
it together.
big about like $300 belts.
No, this is not. This was like a $40, $50 belt. I was like
belts
America.
are crazy expensive. The cheapest belts are $40. I hate that. What
Well,
are we
because
doing?
if you get in leather's always going to be at least a little bit.
I guess,
and
but
they
it's like a
last.
little strip.
They last.
My belts.
They might. I mean, just depends. I
Well,
bet the
Your waistline lasts. We'll see.
I
That's
bet the
big deal
cart
with belts.
I did yoga
ladies.
yesterday.
I bet the cart ladies love all of the guys in your group that continue to hit on them. And
I
the
don't
guys
hit on
in the group ahead, and the guys in the group behind you.
I don't hit on
and
them.
everybody that's out there, like, I think I got a shot.
I don't.
Fellas, I'm married, and if I wasn't married, I think I got a shot.
I never do
I
that.
think there's
I'm a respectful, responsible adult. All I do is they know my beverages. They know what I'm going to get.
It's good.
I tip well because I'm a scholar, and
Those things usually go hand in hand.
and then I just kind of get drunk. There's nothing wrong with a few transfusion on the golf course.
Yeah, sure.
You're at a transfusion course. That tells me enough. Mm-hmm. That's the hoity-toity drink. at the
There was a
country
transaction
clubs.
that took place yesterday between the Kansas
Busch Lights.
Jayhawks and the number one player in America.
Yeah.
And Jadon's Tyron Stokes. I don't know that Jadon Stokes it is. That's his brother. Tyron Stokes.
Is it Jadon Kennedy or
Jadon
Jaden?
Kennedy. I think it was Jadon Kennedy. And
Carry on.
Carry on, Kennedy.
carry
That's rather bulky, but I consider it carry on. Tyron Stokes chooses the Kansas Jayhawks. Don't know how much money it is. There's now video.
I've heard some numbers.
I've heard some money, some numbers too. I've heard that he has had a standing $5 million offer from Kentucky for a while. He showed up at Lawrence today, gave a hug to Bill Self. It was kind of awkward at first because he gave the bro high five and then little hug with Townsend And then he goes to Bill Self, and Bill Self goes for the bro.
Yeah,
and,
Bill could be straight.
And Tyron just gives him an overall hug.
Oh.
And so Bill went from the oak tree and then just hugs him. And then Bill looked like he wanted to hold the hug a little bit longer than Stokes did. Because Bill was just holding on. Like, it was like, I haven't seen, you just got back from war, son. And I haven't seen you in a while. This is the reunion I've been waiting for. And Stokes was just like, gave one of those on the back, like, yep, all right, all right.
Hasn't made an
Bill's been bro
hugging. He's been bro hugging for 30 years.
I loved it, though.
Tyron's got to realize that. He can,
but that's
he
the
can
thing
do the bro.
But that's the thing is Tyron didn't do the bro.
That's what I'm saying. He's got to
Tyron's
realize
like, no,
Bill's been doing this since the
Bill,
90s.
I'm coming in for the full thing, dude. I bro hugged Townsend. That's fine. I'm coming in for the real thing, Bill. Come on in here. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers gotta hug.
Tommy Boy.
Good job.
That's right.
Love
yes.
that movie.
Tyron Boy that showed up, and Billy Boy, Curtis Boy. But yeah, so he decides Kansas is where he's going to be playing his college ball, and I thought it was interesting that he really didn't know what the game was, like what jersey was on the game until he opened it up. And it was like, oh, I'm going to Kansas, everybody. It was Kentucky. I didn't know. It was like a gender reveal. My parents did that. They put it in.
It's like a gender reveal.
They put it in there to where like I didn't want to know which one they chose for me, and I was so excited.
Hard to
and
see with those sunglasses on.
going to Kansas, apparently. There we go.
Why do people wear sunglasses indoors?
Why do people put them on indoors? I've seen people walk in indoors with them on and keep them on. That's silly enough. But this was a case of being indoors for a long time and then putting them on. I don't know if I've seen that move.
I read about it, and what I took away from that reading was he's 18.
Yeah, he's
So
18,
that's
trying
what
to be cool.
That's what I took from
But I
that
don't
whole
get
thing.
it. How's it cool?
It's not. But we have
But you're
old man
not an
perspectives.
18
when I was
22-year-old
18, I thought it was lame.
Whatever. You were forever a high school sophomore.
Business major undecided, yeah. College sophomore, business major undecided. No, I never understand glasses indoors. It makes no sense to me.
Well, you know what? When I was in high school, the older crowd didn't understand visors backwards and upside down.
Well, that's
What's
just
the
cool.
point? What's the point? It's not blocking your eyes, and why is it
NSYNC did
upside down? Right? Well, why are you wearing sunglasses inside? Because it's just the thing that kids do today.
probably all try to
Kids-
be
and young
Yesterday
adults.
yesterday was silly, I thought, and weird and awkward. But I'm coming from the 49-year-old perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I ever thought those were cool, but I mean, he's coming from an 18-year-old perspective. I wouldn't be surprised in 4 years he looks back and kind of winces. Like, what was I doing?
Took my talents
Giving
to Kansas.
everybody basketball cards.
Basketball cards here. This is one for you. I signed that one. Better keep on to that. That's an IOU. That's for the car. That's worth. You might want to hold on to that one. That's one's worth a lot
All
of
I
money.
know is you better be putting up 25, 10, and 5.
There is
Doing
that
that.
problem that comes with it when you kind of make yourself bigger than the team, bigger than the game, and doing all this. Yeah, you better. By all accounts, maybe he can. But college basketball can be humbling, even for the best players. I just hope he plays.
What kind of injury do you think he's going to have?
I hope it's not true. Honestly, I hope Peterson drops to 5 this year, and they point to that, and other youngsters look at that like, okay, that was a misstep. He shouldn't have done that.
Or they had a misstep in not telling everybody early on what actually happened at the Bill Self boot camp when he had the full bot and he had to go to the hospital for a number of days. And every time he felt that coming on, he panicked and that's a whole lot more.
If that is true, then I hope they do that.
That's a lot more. That's a lot more understanding than
Skeptical.
he felt some pain here and he had a cramp there. No, well now he's battling a sickness here. Like wow,
Yeah,
this
he's
guy.
on the bench. Nobody's tending to him, but he's got
this
something
going on.
This
got
is
that
going to be
going on.
I'm going to go with elbow. This is going to be like a tennis elbow situation.
Why are you picking elbow?
I don't know. Just
No,
I just learned where the hip was. Why don't you pick that?
well, your elbow's right here, right?
You nailed it. Yeah.
got it right. Good job, man.
That's why you
Good
wear
job.
shorts. Show off my elbow.
It's,
Show off my
that's- Except for the long sleeves there. You got that elbow showing. I said at the beginning of the show, Mick, that I don't know how the roster is going to fit together. That's Bill Self's job. But the way the roster was constructed before yesterday, they needed an infusion of talent on
they
the
still
team.
need warm bodies, I think.
They do. I think they got to have shooters. Like right now, there's a whole lot on Cole Rosario's plate to be a shooter.
Yeah.
And, a number of the high school, recruitnik guys and scouts will tell you that Stokes is not a 3-level scorer. So he's a dominant player inside. He's a force in transition because he's got the LeBron sort of, I'm just going to run downhill and dunk
6'7",
it. You're not
tall,
going to be able
long,
to
yep.
stop me because I'm thick and built that way. but he's not a 3-level scorer, and it's also like, don't count on him to be a 3-point shooter.
He's pretty used to not having shooters.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, I don't know where that part of the game is coming from.
Either.
And then you've also got to blend Stokes, TK, and Blyden together. Blyden, another transfer, and then TK and Stokes that all want the ball in their hands to create, and that's what
different
they're comfortable
world,
with.
man. Now your entire roster is question marks, even at KU. This isn't like 2011 of like, you know what, Cole's gone. Cole Aldridge is gone, but we think the Morris twins can be good. We've seen them play, and that's it. And obviously, and then they were great. The entire roster is new. The two guys you're hanging your hat on were like the 9th and 10th men in an 8-man rotation last year, right? They didn't play. Rosario basically didn't play down the stretch, and Bayard, I don't know, had a good night late. Okay, but that's what you're hanging your hat on, and you're hanging your hat on these two outstanding freshmen coming in, and hopefully a couple of the transfers can come in and mesh, and that's the biggest thing, the chemistry and meshing. And I would say in the short time frame we've had for these for all these teams turning over every year, I think 10 to 20% of the teams come together. The others don't. And it just falls apart for the next, even for the big boys, the good teams like Kansas.
Well, I know that people say you're not going to turn down the number one player in America when he wants to go to your school. Well, you're not really turning down the number one player. You're just not willing to offer that much money because maybe you feel like you can use your money
We can use it elsewhere.
Because when we've looked at the top recruits in the NIL era, Peterson and DeBanza last year went to the round of 32 and round of 64. Cooper Flagg helped lead his team to the Final Four. Malawach was on that team too, as both top 5 guys. But I think the difference being what Kansas thought they were going to get with Darren Peterson.
Also had Knippel too, and Malawach.
Yes, that's true.
3 of the best rookies in the NBA.
But what Cooper Flagg brought also was 40% from 3. Being a big guy and could score at all 3 levels, can handle the ball, can create. Stokes can create. He's got a lot of turnovers in his game. You need to find a way to limit that. But I don't think turnovers are always the worst thing, because if you've got a guy that's like, he's 3 assists and no turnovers, so he just passed it to a guy who shot it, as opposed to, I'm going to actually create and try to get an easy shot for somebody. I turned it over. That sucks. But the next 2 times down, I got layups for our guys.
Holmes had 15 interceptions. He also had 50 touchdown passes.
Right, exactly.
Actually, he probably had way less than 15 that one year.
It was like, was it 50 and 12, I think? But before that, Kentucky had 3 of the top 6, and they lost in the first round. Before that, Duke had 3 of the top 4. They lost in the round of 32. Gonzaga got Chet Holmgren. They lost in the Sweet 16 the year before that. Paolo Banchero led that team to the Final Four, Duke. So oddly enough, the last couple NIL top recruits that made it past the Sweet 16 have both been at Duke.
Yeah.
But the success isn't there from, you got this guy, and he's going to lead you on an NCAA tournament run, like maybe we thought in years past of NBA talent. That's how you get to the Final Four and the national championship. That really hasn't borne out over the years recently of, you got lottery picks, 3 of them on your team, and that's why you won the national championship.
I'm telling you, this new era, I don't think it fits Bill Self's strengths of like getting guys in. Guys get better at KU, develop them 3 years in. You're going to the Final Four. Look at all of his Final Four teams, the 2 championship teams. They were led by veteran guys, and he's had a ton of one and dones. Wiggins, Oubre, was it Joshua Jackson,
Thomas Jefferson.
That's right. And some of those teams were the teams, like you said, that flamed out the earliest in the tournament, and so. Yeah, you're never going to turn them down, but I'm like you. It's like, okay, I'm not turning you down, but this is what we can do for you.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
I'm turning down the asking price.
Yeah, because I can get 3 other guys here that are 20, right? We'll have 2 years of eligibility left for this same price, who have played at some higher level of college ball already. A lot of those things I know that they can do, and there's less up in the air, and I know they're going to be here for a couple of years, hopefully. As opposed to someone who's been here for 6 months. So I agree. Well, I don't think that you have to sell your soul for the can't miss one and dones.
And I think the macro thing from this is, I don't think Kansas offered him the most money. Like, I don't think
I heard Kentucky offered Again, all these are just like whatever.
15
$3
million
million more. $3 million more is what I heard, but I don't know.
I don't know that he
It's a
would
lot.
choose Kansas over Kentucky and turn down like $8 million as opposed to $5 million.
Well, I'd heard KU's number was 7. So, but still, 10 to 7.
10
I
to
don't
7,
know.
you're right. I know for a fact, though, that Kentucky was offering more. And whatever Kansas was offering, Kentucky was going to come over the top of that and give them more money. So he didn't just choose Kansas because they paid him the most. So there's that macro sort of look at it as, okay, well, Kansas still has some cachet and some power of being a blue blood.
You would think Kentucky still has some too,
you would
right?
think, but
it's not like
Kansas,
KU's going up against LSU or something like that. Or
but that's what's
Mississippi
crazy
State.
about like this recruiting cycle is that Stokes grew up in Louisville until he was 10, 11. Then he moved to California.
And then did he play all high school ball in Seattle?
He bounced around to different teams. Surprising in this day and
Weird.
age, he didn't stay at one particular team. Like what we see most of the time with Wagner. That's really
Wagler.
Wagler. That's really what we
Wagner?
see.
Judge Wagner.
Judge Wagner, Franz Wagner. So he bounced around, but like TK grew up 45 minutes north of the campus at Kentucky, and he's at Kansas. Tyron Stokes grew up in Louisville, and his first official visit was to Louisville. Then he took officials to Kentucky. Then he took unofficials to Kentucky. Like Louisville obviously didn't get Stokes either, but Kentucky lost 2 guys that were in their backyard, and we're clearly thinking like the top 5 was Louisville, Kentucky, Oregon, Kansas, and I don't know who the other one was.
And two, I mean, we're comparing Kansas and Kentucky, but maybe we should compare. What if Cal was still there? Compare Bill and Cal. I would not be surprised if at least one of those guys.
That's what I
was
said
in
too.
Lexington.
Mark Pope, more like Mark Dope.
Yeah.
Well, like I talked about the domino effect that we didn't realize at the time, and you look back now, it's April 29th in 2026. Andy Enfield left USC, went to SMU. Mark Musselman then wanted to return to the West Coast, left Arkansas to go to USC. Arkansas started talking to Jerome Tang. Kansas State overcompensated and gave him that ridiculous buyout. So Arkansas didn't get Jerome Tang.
So they went Cal.
So they went and got Calipari. And then Kentucky got Mark Pope. So Kansas, their in-state rival in Kansas State, got worse with that transaction.
Yeah.
And their national sort of most wins in NCAA history, Blue Bloods back and forth rival, got worse because they went Mark Pope as opposed to having Cal. And now they've got 2 of the top 15 recruits in the country on their team because Mark Pope is there instead of John Calipari. All because of Andy Enfield and Mark Musselman. That's what I'm saying.
Eric Musselman.
Same guy.
Pretty sure it's Eric.
Same guy.
Yep.
I think I went to high school with Mark, but whatever.
Did you?
Eric, yes.
I smoked pot with that guy.
You don't even know.
Johnny Hopkins. Sloan Kettering.
That's what it was. Me, Johnny.
The joke there is that those are both hospitals. Sloan Kettering
Kettering.
is like a kid's hospital in New York. I didn't know that till years later.
Weed with Johnny Hopkins. You don't even know a Johnny Hopkins.
It's me, Johnny Hopkins, and Sloan Kettering. What a deep cut.
Eric Mark Musselman goes to USC, but it's
Well, he married my former coworker.
I know, right? There's all these crazy connections, with that. So obviously, we'll see how it's going to work out for Kansas, but I do wonder, like, how the roster is going to look when it all comes together and they're playing next year on the floor. I would hope that there are no injuries.
I think that sucks for KU fans. Like, we have to wonder every single year now. This time last year, they had no idea about Melvin Council or Trey White or Darren Peterson.
But I wonder if they would have
same
figured
deal.
it out earlier if Peterson didn't go through all of the stuff he went through, whereas no injuries. Okay, Stokes, TK, Blyden. Can you all 3 coexist on the floor at the same time if we have Blyden point, TK combo, and then Stokes being a power forward?
Yeah.
All of them like the ball in their hands, but this is how we're going to run this and work together. And, hey, you've got all of the offseason, and then you get into February, and it's like, wow, this is what you imagine that maybe Peterson and Trey White and Melvin Council would look like if they had this much time.
They're a couple just moves away. I think Flory, I think, provides a big deal for this team. A is a big man. B is a great defensive player. And if he would have stayed, and then the other guy, Terrence Brown from Utah, had he come, I think you got a legit kind of dog score, a guy that's going to go, knows how to get a bucket. And I don't know if they have that. I mean, they probably will at the freshman, but it's different. I mean, I thought Peterson, when he was out there, And later in the year, he didn't maybe play a little too much hero ball. But I thought he deferred too much. I mean, DeBonsa was going out and getting his 25 shots every game. 40. He's like, this is my team. Everything's going to run through me.
Well,
whereas every possession did not run through Darren.
BYU was better constructed around AJ.
They had a really good team for Saunders.
They had Robert Wright. They had Saunders. So you had three-point shooters who at times, too, could create their own shot if you needed to. But they were three-point shooters surrounding AJ DeBonsa, so it wasn't clogged up in the middle. BYU, I thought, was actually a very well-constructed team, but when Saunders got injured, it was over.
I really liked him even in the tournament. I had him, I think, going to Elite Eight or something like that, but making a run.
Bastard.
They lost to Texas. Come on. They lost to one of the first 4 teams. Starting next year, we'll have the first 24.
12, last 12 in? First 12?
They're having 12 games. So
first
24
24
teams are doing playing games.
Oklahoma State has a chance.
That might get that to 176. No, they would have.
They would have barely.
It might have been close. Yeah, still
would have been on the bubble.
They showed the resumes of some of the teams that would have gotten in this year. I'm like, ugh.
That's what I said. I go, this is why I hate it. I love more basketball.
And how are we gonna do? There's no one cheater anymore for the bracket. Before we could ignore the first 4 games, and I'm just gonna take this seed. Whoever wins of the 11s. I'm going to say whoever wins of the 16s is losing to Duke in the number 1 seed. Now, you can't ignore 12 games now, right? Because you're going to have one of those teams every year make it to the second weekend or farther.
It's going to be it'll be 6 teams or 6 games.
No, it's 12.
Right, I know, but of the 12 games, 4 of them are going to be all 16 seeds. So there's no longer all 6. They're going to be 8 16 seeds are going to play in for 4 games. Of the 16 or the 12 games, 4 of them will be 16 seeds, 2 will be 15 seeds. So just there's
so
2
instead of 6 16 seeds, which is what we have now, we'll have 8
16 seeds, and we'll have 6 15 seeds.
And so
that's 6 games.
So that's not necessarily. Hey, we're welcoming in more little guys.
No.
That's just moving 15 seeds to the 16 line.
Exactly, absolutely.
Shoot me in the mouth.
And it's going to be 6 games. It'll be 6 games of a combination of the team quality resume of 11, 12, and 13 seeds.
So congratulations. You're going to see more Auburn and like 6 and 12.
Indiana,
Oklahoma State,
yeah.
And then you'll have Dickie V on after the fact that Oklahoma State is not in the top 76.
I had my 71st team. I don't know how you can rank them lower than 71.
You can't have a team like this not make the tournament. It doesn't matter.
I realized they were 6 and 12 in the Big 12 play.
But those 6 wins, you can't overlook that.
But
they lost to the Institute of No Thumbs in the non-conference.
You know what's hilarious is Miami, Ohio may have the same conversation this time around. If they would do the same thing, they'd still be the well, but how can you leave out Auburn?
They will.
Right?
It's all going to be now. We have these
these
bigger leagues now. It is, I guess, harder to get in if you're an average or below average conference team. But whatever.
Yeah.
You were right, Jason. I was holding out hope that it wouldn't happen. Like,
it was going to happen, and now instead of the argument of this team over that team, what the NCAA is essentially saying, well, we're just going to have them play. We don't have to decide if Auburn or Indiana just go play.
There will still
77 and 78.
You're always going to have to draw a line somewhere.
Well, this team shouldn't have to go to Dayton or wherever the locations are going to be.
Where is the second site? Do we know?
Dayton will be one of the sites, but they'll have 6 games on Tuesday, 6 games on Wednesday. Like, that's not all going to be from 7 o'clock at night till they're not going to do unless they do a 3-and-3, a doubleheader of 3 games at the same time.
You're going to need 2 pages for your bracket now, basically.
Can you fit the play-in stuff at top? Can you fit those 12 games? Because they put the 4 games up there.
Maybe small print. I can't see that small print anymore.
Maybe like 6 and 6.
But
6 at the top, 6 at the bottom.
It just became a lot harder to win your bracket because you're going to have to require people to pick winners there. You can't just ignore 12 games and ignore 24 teams. You're going to have one of those make a run to the Elite Eight or Final Four one of those years.
But really, I think it's going to be, so of the 24 teams, you're going to have 12 of the 24 are going to be 16 and 15 seeds. So it's really just, you've got 12 teams that you can't ignore that are going to be 11, 12, or 13.
They can still slip through.
I've never seen that happen.
But
never seen a 15
the
seed
15 seeds will, some of them will beat 14 seeds of prior years, right? They'll be that quality. It will be a 14 over a 3 type upset, which happens about every other year or so.
Yeah, that's a good point with that one. So, I think it's going to be all of the 12 seeds will be in the play-in game.
And it's just that
so
just
4 games of the 6 would be 12 seeds.
that 2-month just battle, knockdown boxing match of conference play is really not going to matter much at all in Big 12, in the SEC, Big 10. In that, we're getting 85% of our teams in.
You know what I would have liked to see?
What does it really matter?
And this is what Michael and Sterling, and maybe we talked about this a while ago, but I thought this was a really good idea, is if you're going to expand it by this many teams, can you expand it to where a team, maybe even a one-bid league, wins their conference but loses their conference tournament? Well, that
Sign
team's
me up
getting
for that.
in too.
That's what I want.
Sign me up for that.
Now, it's a one-bid league if they win their conference and
How
the conference
often
tournament.
does that happen? Couple times a year,
couple,
where
3 times,
a team would have made.
Yeah. Or, I mean, it's can you find a way to ensure some of the smaller teams get in? Because this is only going to be for more Power 5 conference teams.
It's going to be for the
getting
9th and 10th place teams in the Power 4 conferences, basically.
And Power 5,
Power
with the
5,
Big
I
East.
guess. Big East,
yeah. It's going to be it's going to be those teams. And reading the Pete Thamel report, in that this isn't actually a windfall in money.
No, that's it. That's the other thing. It's like they're not doing this for money. It's just the conferences want their more teams in.
The extra money is essentially to pay for the expenses of having other venues. And
it's like a star bond, basically. We're going to pay for it by them doing it.
It's a use tax. Sending the teams there, we got to pay for the flight, and that's going to help us with the added inventory that we're going to have on Tuesday and Wednesday. But it's just they want their teams to be in the tournament, which is, hey, coaches, you don't make the tournament, it's fireable offense now. Beware what you wish for. You're out of the tournament, I got to fire you.
100%.
If you can't make the tournament in this format, I don't know that you can be my coach moving forward. And that's going to be for cause.
Yes.
Not making the tournament is going to be for cause in your contract. No, you guys wanted to expand it and make sure all these teams get in. Well, you damn sure better get in.
It's like there's only 80 Power 5 teams, guys. And you can't make a 76-team tournament?
Yes, you can't be one of the top 50.
How can we be expected to be better than Northwestern?
Yeah.
How can you expect that from us?
I don't think you can. You really can't expect that. So we'll see.
Yeah, except for Northwestern. They'll be like, oh, you didn't make it once this decade? Okay, we'll think about firing you now.
Yeah, And
But where were the good GPAs? GPAs were good? Good GPAs? All right.
Yeah.
All right, you're okay.
Absolutely.
Brought in 12 new guys for the school? Good.
What are you going there for? Come on, man. You need some. It's like what the SEC does from time to time. They need some GPA fillers.
Yeah.
Let's go get this walk on.
I am glad, at least for now,
APR.
it's not adding another week or a few more
Yeah.
days to the tournament.
glad
when
that
that came out,
after-
I'm like, are you really going to cram 12 games in on Tuesday and Wednesday? Yes, is the
Yes, they are.
answer. I figured they'd take it to April 12th or something like that now.
At least when we look at the bracket when we wake up on Thursday morning, it will be the same as in years past when we woke up on Thursday morning.
Your player pool draft is just the strategy just totally changed.
Amazing now. Oh my God.
Hard. And it's going to take 12 hours for you to draft. You'll start drafting the selection show and get done Tuesday morning for the first game.
I would argue it would be quicker because there's more high-level scores that would be now in the tournament. And therefore, those late-round picks would not be, do I take this guy that averages 3 points per game or this guy that averages
Or maybe
5?
the prep, I should say, will take longer.
Yes, the prep.
Because you've got more teams, obviously, and
yeah,
more strategy of like, hey, this 15 seed this could win a couple games.
Yeah, yep. And I won't continue to look back at one selection that cost me a decent amount of money this year.
Who was it?
It was, now I can't even freaking remember.
That's good.
who
Hey,
it
you're moving
was.
forward. You're like a cornerback.
Exactly.
You're like
Yeah.
a goldfish.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't even remember who
yeah,
it was.
closer.
It doesn't matter who it was, okay?
He blew the save and says, I'll just keep on.
No, it was Jeremy Fears because I had Michigan State going far.
yeah, Michigan State
and I
guy.
took Jeremy Fears.
Keeping
I
track of
really
dunks.
believed in Michigan. I apparently we should have been counting assists because that's all
So he did?
Yeah, he had like back-to-back games as double-digit assists in the first 2 rounds. I'm like, how selfish is this guy? Like, I care about my assist stats.
On the other side, he's
how
going to tell us
selfish.
about his dreams next.
No, Mick brought it up. Unless he wants to talk about my dreams. I don't dream. Is that weird?
Seriously?
Yeah, I really
You
don't.
don't dream?
I don't.
I had a crazy
They've
one
all
this
come
morning when I
true.
went back
He walked right into it.
Oh.
He walked right into it, Sterling.
Break, no.
Should we? Should
Yes.
we break? All right, we'll talk. The Royals are dreaming of getting back to
Those
500.
little critters like trying to bite my feet. Those are my dreams a lot. I can't get away from like the puppy or even an alligator. Sometimes
Your
it's a
teeth are
snake.
falling out.
Yeah, that too.
No,
I'm naked.
That's
in high
actually
school.
it's actually just Sterling playing with your feet.
Yeah, you're good. You wait till the end.
I know. I like to do that. I am not a guy that it's tough, man. There's some shows where I will watch weekly. They are very few and far between. Most of them, I will wait till they finish and then press play.
All right, Sharknado
and then come
5.
out of my room
Critics,
a week later.
Sharknado 5.
Are they only on 5? Have you guys heard about this?
Yes. I'm not even sure what it is.
My
sure what it
Twitter
is, but
got
I'm
hacked
saying yes.
yesterday.
What?
I got it back.
Well, I heard that
in a miracle.
How did you
so
get it
I
back?
might be getting fooled on this.
But people typically don't get it back, right?
I know. Curtis is going to be mad at me. The station helped a little bit. I got the right form to fill out. They got back to me quick. I gave them all the information my whole life. Well, crap, maybe they hacked me too now. It wasn't them. They're like, all right, we're going to give this guy his Twitter account back. And then, wow, we have his social security number. And so I was on the phone with my brother. I was watching the Royals game late at the station, just finishing it. It was before Bobby hit the homer, and he's on the phone with me, and I'm complaining about the Twitter thing. He's like, yeah, my bank card just got hacked. And
Mine did too.
Well, they're like some red flag from 2019 said he committed Zelle fraud. He's like, I have no idea what Zelle fraud is. And we looked it up. It was like the old Venmo or something like that.
Yeah,
Zelle. In 2019, he's like, look at my bank account. I don't have enough money to ever commit any sort of fraud. And so we're just complaining to each other. I hang up and I get an email from X. And I just go and verify and change my password and everything. And I'm back.
Oh, yeah.
And not 5 minutes later, Bobby hits the three-run homer. I'm like, this is it. Things are going to turn around for me now.
Yeah, there it is.
This is it.
Did you get the car, though? But it looked like, according to
your
your hack Twitter, that you bought a new car.
That was actually my post.
That was your real post.
True. I was car of my dreams. I did get to keep the Land Rover. So
but I am
good.
interested in the Bitcoin you were talking about.
The crypto, yeah.
What's
I went
the
and
latest
looked
with
at my
this?
DMs. I DM'd, including Jordan Schultz, who I guess he follows me. Does he follow everybody that follows him? I DM'd upwards of 30 people about crypto.
Good for you.
But did you have them go and vote for you in your new podcast?
No.
That's what I get. I get the DMs all the
That's what I got. That's what I got caught on.
Oh, you went and voted for somebody?
Yes.
Oh, you fool.
Total fool.
You fool. Don't vote for somebody in the new
my
podcast.
password wasn't working. I'm like, whatever. Because it was like, I thought it was d2football.com.
Oh, wow.
And I follow them, they follow me. I'm like, hey, yeah, just all about D2 football
I help
now.
you guys out. Thank you. You know what? Thank you for reaching out.
Because
That's
it was
cool.
very specific, like the podcast. I'm like, this makes sense. You know, the guy that was going to do a podcast. And I didn't even think about it until 5:30 when Matt Foster's like, you're a account guy.
Dude,
like,
I
know
hate
exactly what happened.
Where are we at as a society
yeah.
when this is what life is?
Well, first of all, it's probably not our society that hacked me yesterday.
No, I agree. But like,
yes.
why 95% of stuff now is just trying to not get scammed.
Yes, and so along those lines, Sharknado, this could be a scam, but I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole. There's this shark that's been tagged that keeps popping up in inland places. Like, it's now in Kansas. It's been spotted. The tag has gone off. The latest ping detected was near Milford Lake in Kansas. What? People are going nuts about it. I was like, what's going on? My brother was like, it's clearly like somebody caught the shark and they're like mailing the tag across the United States.
Get caught?
Just to freak people out.
That's amazing.
It's in the rivers and streams of the glorious 34th state. That's the most inland state in the country.
Lake Lotawana.
It's actually in the hail that came down that was breaking windshields.
Missouri
got
got the Mississippi, where you could see maybe it came over.
I was heard potato-sized hail, but shark-sized hail.
So my sister-in-law sent our group chat today. Kara spotted again in Kansas. I'm like, what is this?
It's Kara the shark. I just love that.
And
was Kara actually spotted?
Like, what is this? And then my brother-in-law was like, well, some great white named Kara who got tagged in her natural environment is now pinging in Kansas. He goes, people that smoke dish detergent are saying she's in a Kansas lake. People that use dish detergent for cleaning dishes are saying she was poached and someone's mailing her tag with instructions to keep it moving.
But also spotted, or there was a ping on some sort of computer.
I like spotted.
She was spotted there. Look at that shark just walking along. Look at that.
I'm like, that's great. I
scenery
know
there.
I'm getting fooled, but I love it. I'm fine with it.
Fool me
I am,
7 times.
I am now in my 50th year of life, and I'm just old. I'm like my parents. I'm getting fooled by social media.
Well, I would like you
You're
to
gonna start doing the Facebook post. Did you guys hear Isaiah Pacheco signed a $200 million contract?
He gave it all, but he gave it all to charity.
Whenever
though.
I see real Kansas City Chiefs fans or real Kansas City Royals fans on Facebook, the next thing that's coming is BS.
It's going to be a real treat
Yeah,
every
it's a
single
real
time.
treat.
The fact that people fall for it also.
Oh, my
blew
wife will
mind.
send me like, I didn't know that Taylor Swift flew on the team plane. I'm like, she didn't. Where are you getting this? Real Kansas City Chiefs fans? Like, of course.
If it has to put real, typically
Yes.
it's not real. I don't know. But I am going to DM you. I would like you to vote for me for this new podcast.
Thank you.
that I'm
I'll-
up for.
I'll do it.
I'm very excited about it.
I don't remember stuff lately, too. So, like, in a week or
pumped.
so, I'll totally forget this happened
So
and fall
pumped
for it
about
again.
Luckily, I'm not that good of a friend, apparently, or follower, because I got one of those and I didn't check the DM for a couple
From
days.
me?
No, not from you.
Okay.
But then I got like 2 more from different people, and I'm like, oh, wait a
I
minute
got one
here.
from Curtis back when his got hacked.
I was like, wait a minute here. So at that point, I knew maybe something was
See,
up.
I just get thousands of these like
Sex
fake
bots, porn?
Yes,
Porn?
those sex bots, dude.
Yeah.
I get
I
thousands.
wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why would
Weird.
why
It's
would
weird,
that
just
be
probably
your
random,
algorithm?
right?
Have I
Yeah.
ever responded to any
Why
of
would
them?
that? Yeah, but why would that be your algorithm?
Yeah,
Weird.
Because
There's
I'm
nothing
not
on
sure
your phone
why
you're
that is.
tapping on or anything
Look
like
at it.
that.
Look at it.
I'm getting requests for podcasts on sports, and you're getting that. Why would the
Yeah.
algorithm send us those things?
I'm sure it's just random and you're innocent.
yeah.
All I get's NBA bleep right now because of Worldwide Wob.
Well, yeah. Way to change the subject.
But I
Sure
would,
it is.
golf.
I would chase down some of those girls, some of those
They're
ladies.
probably all real too.
I bet some of them love. It's real love. They love you.
Yeah, they all say that, and they're all named like all of the names. Half the time it's like Mike or like misspelled names because I'm sure they're not from the United
Wait,
States.
the porn ladies are named Mike?
No, just be like, cause it's probably some dude overseas.
No, it's a real,
It's a real person.
real woman living in Edwardsville, Kansas.
They like you.
My
though.
whole point is
They're the ones that saw the shark.
My point
It's
here
actually
is
named Kara.
this sucks as a society.
Yeah.
That this is what we have to deal with is
Gundy was ahead of his time.
spam phone calls nonstop. So phones are basically unworkable, and you can't call people anymore because of the nonsensical spam bleep.
Well, I also,
you got
you know-
Twitter accounts where it's just all these fake accounts, AI, which is absolute nonsense. Grow up and read a book. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, I had AI read it for me.
I
I had
had
Chat GPT.
I read
it
a
into
book
3 sentences.
on AI.
I read a book on
technology
A1.
has gone too far.
I read it on A1, so that's what I read.
Technology has gone too far.
Yeah, I really see it stopping though. I think this is probably the last
Yeah.
year of technology.
I think we're going to dial it back a little bit.
I
we're
think
gonna slow it
we
down.
should.
No, I
shrink
think we
the
will.
AI game, baby.
Shrink the game,
Shrink the
dude.
game of technology.
Shrink the bleeping game.
Shrink
Okay.
technology.
I don't know. Where are we at? This is absurd.
Yeah, it's probably Twitter's version of tanking. Is what's going on?
Yeah,
You think that's the case?
totally.
But they're now getting rid of tanking because you're not going to get the full ping pong balls in there anymore. So
What are they doing with the draft? It's different?
It's a 3-2-1. So if you are the bottom 3 of the league, you're only going to get 1 ping pong ball in there, as opposed to a 3-2-1 where other teams will get 3 ping pong balls in
sport?
there. Basketball.
Oh, NBA.
In NBA for the lottery, the sport that has the lottery with ping pong balls.
The balls, yeah.
I think
so-
they should do all the teams, even the ones that go to the finals. Everybody gets 1 ping pong ball, and you draw
1 to 30.
Yeah,
You
1 to
should-
30.
Oh, so you
should
get
just-
30 ping pong balls for being 1.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the tanking. So that's why they're trying to avoid the tanking.
30 total ping pong balls. Each team has their name
got
on
their
it.
1 out of 30
Screw it, I
chance.
don't care if you're the Thunder and you win it all. You get the first pick.
No, that's dumb.
What dumb is tanking?
I like 30 to 1. So that way at least you have a
I think
chance.
tanking's smart.
So if you're the worst team, you get 30
Teams
balls.
that tank on all the sports are still this team's picking the next year at the bottom.
I do think there should be. I think it can't be a one size fits all, because there are times when there are teams that are actually trying to win in the NBA and they just have a bad year and they're going to finish in the bottom 3 and it's like, this sucked. We were trying to win. Well, too bad because
Well,
of tanking.
the Celtics did that.
Well,
Celtics they were pretty good, and then they got the 3rd pick and got Jaylen Brown out of it.
yeah. But it's like, oh, well, we were trying. Too bad you're in the bottom 3 and we're trying to get tanking out of there. Right, but the teams that were tanking, they actually did it on purpose.
Tanking never works. Just look at OKC
Yeah, I think.
They tanked?
for like 12 years.
What years?
Are you serious? They tanked for like
Yeah,
12.
what
works
years
if
are they
you
12?
allocate the resources
they
correctly.
tanked for 12 years. I thought you had it in your brain. You're
Open
finding
your
a
brain.
computer.
Can you put it
This
in your
is like
brain?
before Harden and all that?
After.
After.
Are you serious? Like they were the
So
poster
so tanking for 12 years
Worked.
and you're calling that working?
I don't think they tanked for 12 years.
12 was obviously
Yeah, I would say that's.
I would say that's not
it's a
working.
bit of an
I
exaggeration.
think that just the law of averages caught up to him. Then
Yeah.
I think if you could tank for 1 or 2 and it works, then it works.
Yeah. Allocate look. You get the resource. You collect the resources, and then if you allocate them right, then it worked.
Yeah.
It's just like trading, prospects or trading players at the
What was it?
at trade
Philly
deadline in
tanked
Major League Baseball.
supposedly like for a long time. Trust
Philly
the process.
tanked.
It was the process. They just
it actually worked for the Thunder because the Thunder have won.
I would not say any length of time tanking works. You won't have a bad franchise for a decade.
No, I mean realistically, it's like a 4 or 5 year tank for OKC.
Okay, we're dropping it now.
Yeah, I mean, I was being hyperbolic, of course.
I would almost say that. I mean, as a fan, I wouldn't sign up for that. I'm like, no, let's go try. Let's try, rather than if I don't want to take 4 or 5 years off
But would you try for
something that's not
every
guaranteed.
single year? And then it's like, well, now you're the Steelers.
Well,
every year
and that's what
picking
OKC
18 to
was.
24.
They were losing first round like 6 straight years. The Sixers did it even prior to that with Andre Iguodala.
I like Andwe though.
Andre.
But of all the
Andre
teams who
Iguodala.
tanked, as Oklahoma City's kind of the exception, probably, right?
Probably. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so
not
it's
like
like
a
not a
Giants or
guaranteed
Jets
thing to do it. I'm like, okay, we're going to take these 5 years off to give ourselves a 20% chance.
I mean,
of
look at the Sixers. They've
being really
they've
good.
done nothing. The whole process has been
I'm looking straight at
the
them.
process has been ass.
Yeah.
But then you can have a team like the Royals that trades Aroldis Chapman, and they tanked that year, so they got worse because they traded some big league players for some guys that now they're better for it. So they did tank, and it worked out.
Well, I don't know if it's tanking. That's
It
just.
absolutely is tanking. You're getting worse.
Would you consider the same or different?
Which one? Trading Chapman at the deadline?
Trading
I
players
don't-
trading Major League Baseball players at the deadline for prospects is tanking. You're getting
I
worse.
think it's different.
No,
I
you're
draw a
getting
line
worse.
there. I
Yeah.
draw
Are
a
you
line there.
Okay, so are
Going
you
into the year
Are
versus-
you purposefully getting worse as a team for something down the road that you hope can work out in your favor?
Yeah, but I don't think that all that is tanking. No.
Yeah.
Because we're used to
every
it.
time you do it is tanking. No,
Because we're
no.
used to it.
Mick
No.
and I think we know. Like
Yeah.
you know tanking when you see it. It's like what is it? Porn? Was that the definition of porn? You know it when you
And
see
now
it.
back to Kara.
Who
in
said
your-
that?
In your DMs? Yeah, the Supreme Court said that.
I
Supreme
don't
Court said that,
listen.
yeah.
I don't know what the definition of porn is, but when I look at Sterling's phone, I know. I know what it is.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
When I look at that phone, I know what it is. No, I think it's the same thing. I think if you trade a big league player at the deadline, you're worse. But you're hoping that that prospect will help you out in the long run, and you'll be better for it. So you are not going to win as many games without that particular person on your team. Just as if this particular person has a
When
back
does
injury.
in the NBA?
The
when
difference
does
would
the
be-
tanking start?
well,
When the season starts, when
Yeah, that's
when,
a little
when
bit
you're the
different.
Sixers,
If you're a Major League
Well, I do
Baseball
think that's
team
yeah.
and you've tried for 4 months and you've got a 350 winning percentage and you got a big piece that can be traded away
Congrats
and
to big
immediately,
piece.
yeah, you can save some money. And
I think there are levels to it. I think it is tanking,
and
but
get
I
some
think
prospects.
there's more. I think there are more extreme tanking in the NBA where you're just simply putting guys on the injured list. that
and,
are-
I would say it's different in Major League Baseball because you have a farm system and you're getting guys
Yes.
for that. There's not that in the NBA, basically. There's not that in the NFL. You're just unloading players or not playing the best players. And so I do draw a line between that and like, hey, let's trade this really good 35-year-old pitcher
When the
for
Sixers
two
went in-
21-year-old
I'll tell you
infielders.
this.
when the Sixers went in with their best players being Robert Covington, Ish Smith, and Isaiah Cannon, you can't tell me they weren't tanking. They won 10 games that year.
all I know is
10 games.
all I know is people were pretty psyched for Andy Reid to call that timeout for the Raiders game, and the Raiders kicked that field goal, and the Chiefs lost, and they moved up in the draft. We had some fun with maybe Andy throwing that game, right? Wouldn't that be tanking? So
I mean, if he legitimately said
Tank
I
this
didn't try to
segment.
win that, I don't think.
I hope they did tank.
I don't think.
I hope those last 3 games they did. I hope they saw that Gardner Minshew had a bone bruise and like, sit down, Gardner. We're going to play Oladokin.
still
We're
had
going
to
to lose
spend-
these games.
They still had to spend 3 picks to get
But they-
1 at 6.
But if they were picking 12th, they wouldn't have got up to 6 with that. They were picking 9th because they lost to the Raiders. If they
I
beat the
think
Raiders, they're picking
of all the
12th.
coaching staffs in the NFL, Andy Reid and Spagnuolo and those guys are going to be the last one to call that timeout to lose.
I'm just saying it was one of the best clock management decisions he's ever made. Ever. All right, wrapping up the show here. The program takes over as we are done. Royals in action tonight.
Late night.
The night shift with Michael Darcy. You rocking tonight at 7?
We're rocking tonight at 7.
Yeah. And then you're handing it off to Bethany?
Yep, and we'll have Price Carter on at 8.
Oh, nice. Okay, I heard of that guy. It's pretty good.
Great guy.
Pretty
Price is
good.
right.
Okay.
That was a good one.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine. If you're looking for a dismount,
Price
it's okay.
is wrong, Bob. Happy Gilmore?
I don't think he says Bob.
What's he say?
Another word that begins with B.
Yeah. This is Brian. That's what he says.
Buddy boy.
Michael Barcy. Thank you, Mick. You put in a lot of work today.
I did. Man, I got to go to TV now.
Aw.
The worst.